We are back here at Deadlock Fight Night number 28 here in Europe, presented by Intel. ZP here with Jason and Jake. The money match is upon us. Abrahams once more fighting their way for the right to play against Virtus.pro for the title of being champion of Europe. And, I gotta say, gentlemen, the meta continually evolving week after week here in the new patch, kind of proving that when you have changes to the game of the magnitude that we just had, it takes a while for the teams to figure it out.
I still think there's room for innovation. I just think broadly what makes me excited for this match in particular is the way Abrahams won that last match. They didn't just win by, snowballing out of the laning phase. It's like an individual deathmatch situation where they can dominate. They won out of really clean team fights, out of playing the objectives with intelligence, really playing to their strategy strengths and not allowing one win to get the game that they wanted to see with more skirmishing, more individual pick-off potential. And so going up against a team like Virtus.pro, who's been known for their team play, who is like really comfortable in the team fights, this could really be a clash of titans.
I will say this though, ZP, Virtus.pro have been one of the very few teams out there I think we've seen, thinking back to the one-win Bombshell Volume 5, who plays so well around death slams and deny a lot of... I don't think we ever see really good death slams against Virtus.pro because they know how to position themselves in ways to deny that from being impactful. But at the same time, Saf has some really sick ones working around his team to put himself in a position to allow this to happen. So I don't know how it's going to break down if we do see Lash being picked up once again.
I do wonder if Lash becomes more of a prio ban coming in from VP, just because of the fact that Saf did look way better than norm, where I feel like when Lash has been doing well in recent times, it's been more off the fundamentals of just getting good damage in on the Lash relative to having massive death slams. But Saf actually had both in that last game, and I think was a key piece to actually keep the rest of the game intact for a draft that may have gone quite poorly for Abrahams if a few things didn't go their way. I still look back to the part where one win maybe gets a little bit over aggro going after the left walker, and Saf is right there, gets a two-man death slam, takes down two, and it leads to the earn turn in. Something that really saved the game in a way for Abrahams. And maybe if you just get rid of the Lash, you prevent opportunities like that from happening. But Jake, we're about to get in the draft. What are you expecting?
Curious to see where the hero prio is for VP right now with, something like Paradox going unpicked in the last series, but Michaelis has been so solid on it. Of course, he is probably one of the most flexible players here in DFN. I'm also always curious to see what ends up being drafted for Zergy. Obviously, he's very specialized on the tracking heroes, but I'm curious if there's ever room for something like a Haze to come out. I mean, it was first banned in the last series, so I would love to see that potentially get through and just curious to see how it affects the game.
I'm looking towards one, maybe two heavily contested picks between these two teams. One is going to be Haze. I think there's a world where we're going to see that actually being banned away out of one of these two teams off the get-go, because we know Obi can play Haze, Task can play Haze. And then on top, I think Calico, because that was the hero that gave Virtus.pro a lot of problems last week. But I don't know if Virtus.pro is a team to fully commit to banning out a certain hero in particular. If anything, I would think Kelvin would actually be more of a high priority ban for them, or a high priority take right now, as they're not really too worried about the Calico, because we saw in the last game alone how well Kelvin can turn things around.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and I believe the draft is just about ready, so we're not going to have to speculate for too much longer on where it's all at. And yeah, I mean, the one thing I think VP may value a little bit more highly than we saw get picked in the last game is that I do think this may be a world where they get the Warden a little bit earlier. I think if you look at areas where things went wrong for one win in the last game, I think one of the key points was simply the fact that Warden-wise, Xenon wasn't able to hit a critical level of farm, where when Warden has done well in this meta, and Warden has done very well post-patch, it always comes from scenarios where you're able to funnel significant amounts of farm to the Warden. And even though one win wasn't able to do that in the last game, I wouldn't take that as a statement of other teams not being able to do that as we head into our money match here. So it'll be interesting, that much is for sure.
Damn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They won the last 5 DFNs. And potentially 6 tonight, where previously before that, number 22 was 1 win, actually, taking the wins against them. Virtus.pro finally able to turn this around. You can see Abrahams. This is their 4th time meeting Virtus.pro in the money match. And if Hoots in chat, is it the 4th time they're going to lose to Virtus.pro in the money match? Because I always go to his stream and give him crap. He always has 0-time winner of DFN. But tonight could be the night. I mean, this Calico didn't look horrible. I was more focused, to be honest, on Task, actually on the Bebop, having some pretty sick hooks.
Well, now, as we're getting into it, I got one request for production. Okay, maybe we'll hold it for after the draft. I feel like we need our bullied co-streamer stats right now with what is going on right now, because let me tell you, Metro is copping a whole lot of heat at the moment. But speaking of heat here, Jake, the draft is underway. First pick, first ban up here from VP. What do you think they decide to go with here?
I have not the slightest clue, ZP. So much has changed the last couple of weeks. I really have no clue what the draft player was going to be. I do think there's going to be stalwart combos like Shiv Kelvin that end up being strong, but VP taking the Kelvin out early probably does up the prio of something like Lash overall in the draft now, because traditionally I see Kelvin as one of the most solid, consistent counters. Just rip your ult immediately to counter the Lash ulti.
Ooh, I mean, we had to see a Haze ban here. I would almost feel like.
Let it through, bro. Don't. We got to see a little
No,
Haze.
I hope we see Haze. I hope we see it.
I'm sad.
Okay. No, I mean,
Good, then
D-Mog got
Viscous.
MVP last week on Viscous. He had some ridiculous cubes in that series against Abraham.
I do think Viscous is it's so much utility, right? It's like a team fight. The goo ball is a great individual team fight skill. Cube is the best save in the game, and then there's so much playmaking potential with those puddle punches, be able to catch people on top of being a great force in the laning stage.
Is it Calico? Does Calico come in as first pick? Where do we continue the trend of we value frontline? And the answer is yes, because Calico, you're not only getting frontline, you're getting a premier box runner at the same time. And I think for VP, the reason why they banned Kelvin, they didn't want to deal with a Kelvin Shiv counter pick coming on in, where they know they're giving up 2 picks by virtue of being first. For Abrahams, though, if you go off the idea of frontline being really paramount at the moment, you would think Geist is probably going to be one of the 2 picks coming in here. But again, they decide to go. Pocket ends up being a high priority. They didn't pick Pocket
Actually,
last time here.
There's no Kelvin in the game,
Yeah.
so actually I think this does help Pocket in general, right? Like there's not a real good way to deal with the Affliction in terms of like pumping heals, AoE heals to the team fight. I do feel like Pocket was also pretty good last game. Even though they lost, I feel Pocket was actually pretty annoying, able to pressure out some lanes, was really defensive, and stayed alive into a very strong laning combo.
Fun, darling.
And
To be
we get the
fair,
Geist
ZP,
as well.
You remember last week we had Virtus.pro picking Pocket first every single game. That really annoyed me. And I'm not gonna lie, I know Jake's talking like positive about Pocket. I'm still kind of annoyed to see it picked so highly as like a first pick, but I still don't have a like an answer of like why it was being. I never asked Lightbringer like why are they putting Pocket as a first pick.
It's jungle control. It's 100% the fact that Pocket is really good at eating the entire jungle. That is fueling a lot of his pick priority at the moment, because when you get ahead right now, one of the easier ways of getting ahead is just eating the enemy jungle, and Pocket, after you get 1 or 2 pickoffs, is really good about just going into the enemy jungle and taking a lot of the farm quicker than most in the game. And on top of it, when you think about when you're using Pocket to steal enemy jungle, Pocket is also one of the best in the game of actually getting out alive if people contest. So I think that's fueling a lot of it, but it comes at a cost here, Jake, in that you've prioritized the Pocket, but now you look at frontline, the first 3 picks for VP, all frontline characters.
Yeah, one of the choices I thought was interesting last game was that for one win, their Warden ended up going like for a full gun build more or less, and I kind of would have rather seen some of the team fighting potential from like Lightning Stroll and maybe Majestic Leap and a bit more of like a hybrid Warden. They're gonna grab a Haze in response, but both teams now have drafted like pure cores for their first 3, right? So both teams are still lacking initiation, they're lacking catch, which I imagine is what they're going to answer here in the back half of the draft. But with bans about to come in, there could be a pretty thin pool for some of these initiator heroes.
They're
Jason,
gonna ban Sinclair, right? Not Abraham. Virtus.pro gonna ban Sinclair, right?
Guess I'll wait here.
Oh, wow, with Ivy being taken away too, it really limits what supports are left. I mean, you have Dynamo. I don't know if realistic we're going to see Dynamo come out of Virtus.pro here, but this might. I mean, if you looked at the healing that Abrahams did last game compared to the 33k that Saint did on the Kelvin, like it was night and day the amount of healing difference between the 2 teams. So with these like 2 heroes, that's a big change up in how you have to approach this match.
well, particularly the fact that VP is very willing to go in on the Ivy. But yeah, I think the Lash ban coming in here makes a whole lot of sense, given what we saw Saf play. I think for Abrahams, to me, this makes me feel like they're going to go with the Paradox here. Maybe they go with Holiday instead. It's hard to say, but I feel like with Lash off the table, you still need something to initiate. Or maybe even you go with the Bebop. Obviously, they're comfortable on the Bebop. Either way, I feel like they're going to need something to compensate. But Jason, you called it. Still going to go with the Sinclair, who I still think is a pretty good pick when Warden is on the other side.
Yeah, I'm thinking like are they actually going to go Holiday or Paradox? Because Task plays the Haze for Abrahams, and he's normally like the playmaker, the initiator for a team. Unless they're going to swap things around, like who would go Bebop then, since you know it to be a good Bebop, or maybe someone else plays Haze, but I would imagine it's still going to be Tasks coming through.
You can only run from the law for so long.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing I'm noticing about these drafts is that Abrahams is going to have to play almost a 180-degree different style than they played in the last series, because without Kelvin and Lash, this idea of like playing for these key objective fights, playing for secured earned pickups from Lash, secured drop-offs from Kelvin is not going to be possible, right? Like, so it's going to really require a very different stylistic approach, and now it seems to me rather that Virtus.pro are the team with like the better team fight, the better objective threat. And I wonder where Abrahams are going to get their edge in this game. They're going to have to find a lot of individual pickups, but I think they really have a couple holes in the draft here. Like, who is starting these fights for Abrahams? I guess it's like Pocket with an Affliction, but how do you actually catch and lock down, you know, somebody like a Shiv?
They need a Paradox or a Bebop here. I don't think they get away without one of the two. I mean, okay, they have the Haze, and you can kind of have the Haze in sort of similar role. Like when Haze has been played recently, sometimes you have put your playmaker player on it, and we have seen, I think, at least one time where you come in and you run Haze and just, you know, hope to get a sleep and then you run at people. I mean, we'll see if it works out. I mean, Haze has been highly valued for a reason. I still think there's a good chance that they come in the final pick here is either going to be Paradox or Bebop, but there is a world where it is not the case. Instead, they go with Abrams. So really here, Jason, this is going to be putting a lot of heavy lifting on the Haze to be kind of getting fights started in a reasonable position for Abrahams, but it's not the most reliable of engage relative to what we saw in the last map, right? Where they're able to use Lash and Bebop.
I think they're just looking for a strong mid game where Haze really excels. You create those pick opportunities. You kind of act as a human ward for your team, and then look for the initiations off the back of it. There was many times last week where Tass would hit like a sleep dagger and would buy enough time for some teammates to come in to actually like finish it off into a kill. And if they can have a strong mid game to allow Tass's Haze to snowball the game, I think Abrahams could easily come out the win. But looking on Virtus.pro's side, a lasso into a combo into like Zergion Wraith, like this is damn deadly. I mean, we're gonna be seeing what Shark plays Mo and Krill. I thought Lissu could be on Calico, Michaelis on Shiv, Dimov on Holiday. I mean, that seems right. Obikim, is he gonna be playing Warden here, or is he gonna be switching over to Holiday?
You know, you'd think it's Obikim on Holiday, because I would think Sharik is gonna Warden. I mean, often that's how it goes for this team.
No, I think it's we go back to the old school. I think it's going to be Obikim on the Mo and Krill, which Obikim did have a period where he was constantly playing Mo. I think that's what we're going to see. But also, look, we've kind of looked at chat and we've noticed some trends in the last little bit. And look, we got to give you the report on most bullied co-streamers. Once again, our leader here at DFN by a wide margin, it is Metro, especially when you consider most of the contribution for Deathy largely comes from Jason. It's kind of unreal, Jake.
He's taking a lot of smoke here in the chat. Chatters are merciless here on DFN.
Oof. Just
I see Jonas and Deathy went down a little bit.
Live updates.
This is a live update. Exactly, a live update. It's the amount of times you say your favorite streamer's name in chat affects our bar graph here. So let us know in chat who you want to bully, and it can't be one of us.
Shout out to Jonas for still getting a little bit of heat while not even being online. You know, I respect it, even after hosting us earlier in the day. But either way, we're getting down into it. VP versus Abrahams. You know, Jake, we're about to see the lanes, but you know, how do you see this one panning out?
Well, I'm curious. I do like VP's draft a little bit more. I think both teams have gone for a little bit more of a skirmishing style, and I think the hard lockdown is just giving the edge to me to Virtus.pro. I think whether it's the combo, the Wraith ulti, the lasso, and then on top of that, you got Warden trapped as a follow-up to any one of those skills. I just feel like Abrahams is going to be forced to play that skirmishing style because, well, that's kind of the draft that both teams have gone for, and I think VP are poised to profit a bit more from those pickoffs.
Jason, we're looking here. The lane's taking a little bit of shape. You know, a little bit of a change up from last game where, of course, we had the Holiday, Warden, Shiv, Kelvin off in the left, different comps all around. What strikes out to you here?
I'm waiting to see who's on who fully. I caught Virtus.pro side. I didn't catch who Hoot was on, but I'm almost guessing it's the Sinclair. Because I didn't get to catch it. Or maybe I'm going to be wrong here. I don't know. What's going to catch out to me? I want to see how this Mo Shiv lane goes, actually. I don't know. It's like a very uncommon kind of dual lane that we don't see too often. I mean, to be fair, we haven't really seen Mo in a long time, I feel like, or at least within a couple weeks because of a fall off in his play.
Well, we did see Mo last week in NA. We just haven't seen Mo a whole lot in EU, where EU, he was flavor of the month for a little bit and then just went into the dumpster for a while, but now he's back. Jake, we're about to get fully into it. Now that the lanes have taken shape a little bit, any final thoughts here before we let you go?
Yeah, just curious to see, especially how Saint and Taz play this game. I think they're the ones with like the most flexibility in terms of like the way their heroes can be played. For Taz, like I'm curious to see what build he ends up going, whether it's sort of a more conventional carry with some heavy damage playing on the passive, or just maybe playing around those sleep dagger setups with invis. And then of course for Saint, what are the copies he ends up going for? Maybe something like the Mo Krill copy could be the thing that starts setting you up for some of these kills, but it's going to be less consistent, of course, relying on getting that copy.
All right, Jason, right now, all things even across the board, Listic together, getting a little bit pummeled respectively here so far. And you look at lanes, I feel like it's really important for Abrahams to not lose the right-hand side, where you have both Wraith and Ward in there. I can't think of a lane that's carrying more importance, where if that lane goes against you, I feel like the ability to actually bring the game back is going to be tough if you let both those heroes get ahead. So I feel like for Abrahams, at a very minimum, they just need to keep the right lane even.
It's going to be deadly when those ultimates, like that telekinesis into a last stand, can be quite painful. Yeah, I don't think Abraham's going to be looking for any kills in that lane, to be honest. Like you're saying, just looking to survive for the most part. I think we're kind of seeing Abraham's on the left side and maybe even towards middle looking for the kills. I think middle in particular might be my main focus, actually, when it comes to this matchup, because we have Task there with Saint. So having the Haze paired with a Sinclair, as we're looking to see Task, hop off of this lane and look for ganks, look for some box runs, some jungle invades as well when he gets into that mid game. He's already sitting at 2.2, but he's pretty much flush with his entire team. And I think I still say, like, Abraham's, for me, a lot of their playmaking potential, as we said before, is going to come down to Task on the Haze. If he doesn't have a strong mid game, I don't see Abraham's winning this game.
Yeah, I mean, Abrahams are lacking a lot of the direct engage tools that VP is certainly going to have access to between not only Holiday and Mo, but also even Calico has ways of starting up fights, in reasonable time. So, Abraham's working at somewhat of a deficit if they're not able to just execute the game plan of effectively just running at VP. Which in a way the Haze initiate sometimes is, where Haze will go ahead of the team, look for an early sleep, and then the rest of the team will just kind of walk and follow up. But Obakam gonna be first to fall.
I'm not like a Hoot massive fanboy. I'm slightly a fanboy. I won't deny that. But like, what can't he play? I think he's definitely been one of the most versatile players we've had in DFN. Because, I mean, he's now on Pocket. Like, he played Calico in a Pocket. He's played Sinclair. He's played Bebop. Like, he's played pretty much, like, kind of every role and everything for his team. And he actually's dead. He's dead. The bloodletting.
Yeah, just a little bit too much for the KLS to handle. And also, Jason, I challenge you on the You're Not Hoot fanboy. You have said nothing but glowing praise about Hoot, going all the way back to the My Dog days. And look, I don't necessarily disagree, but you are definitely a card-carrying member of the Hoot fan club.
Just don't tell him that, because every time I go to a stream, I always am very mean to him. Another kill coming through out of Abraham's on this left-hand side as they actually rotate things around. Listic joins the left hand looking for a party here, but just going to be met with some farm as the rest of Abraham's has been able to back away. And I guess they actually do get the kill in the south. I'm not sure exactly what happened in that case, but you can already see this left-hand lane of Abraham's has been able to pull Listic away, allowing Abraham's to push this mid lane.
Yeah, and they've gotten decent progress onto left Guardian, too. You look at Guardian health across the map, and left and middle a little bit dinged up for VP. Abraham's healthy pretty much across the map. Left lane getting hit a little bit now, but overall, early game, a little bit more Abraham's coded here so far, even with VP being ahead on Econ. I kind of feel like, Jason, when you look at who's winning the early game, Guardian health is probably your best indicator at the moment. And Rough together. Just accept fate and goes, I'm not getting out of this jail. Just Bring me in.
To the police?
Presumably. I mean, I don't know. I don't think Warden actually puts you in an actual jail. I think you just get executed after the jail hits. So,
jeez, that's not a policeman or a warden that I want to meet up against, man. But still, I mean, like Abraham's off to a decent start here. Shark, I mean, 4.5k. He's already been able to get quite high up there. It's only really Obikim's fallen behind. I think giving up some solo farm over to McKLS is a great lasso comes in on the Saint. And that parry, I mean, that is pretty much the only thing you really can do when you have a special assistant down to hop over to. At least for Virtus.pro, they've been able to respond in this mid lane.
Also, the reason why they were able to dive on the Saint that freely there, they were able to poke down Tass to the point of nearly being dead. Tass actually could not stay, had to leave. So in terms of kills, VP, very economical the last little bit here. And now maybe able to get one more together. Looking super low, chased on down, pinned in on both sides. Down he goes. And VP, it's interesting. The first 3-4 minutes of the game, a little bit tough. And VP, they just shake it off, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, it's true VP style, right, man? We've been saying for 28 weeks now that Virtus.pro might lose the early game, but they're still going to be an extremely strong team later on. Just because you win the early game against them doesn't mean you're actually going to win the match. That Affliction had come through, going to get a lockdown of the Hoot with the combo, but Sharks has gone down in that right-hand lane. And it looks like McKellis is going to survive for now. Early rescue being picked up for Obikim to heal him up. But Hoot is on the charge and knows they're in the Veil. And that's a pretty quick and clean kill on the McKellis.
That also could have been a kill on the Obikim if that parry was just a little bit earlier. Obikim actually kind of lucky to get out of that one. So the trade-out's still happening. Meanwhile, take a look here on the Listic. Dive on the Saf makes it look easy because, frankly, kind of was. The power of Calico at this point in the game cannot be overstated.
And Saf soul exchanged. His cooldown was consumed, but he didn't get the health. So I'm not sure if that's actually like slightly a bug because of the Enter the Shadows. I don't know if you should be able to get your cast off if they're not going to be hit by it. But either way, I mean, yeah, like the burst out of Listic, able to play around it perfectly with the Calico to take down Saf. But he's not going to play it perfect enough to get away from Hoot, who's on a killing spree, a 5-kill streak. Only 8 minutes in, ZP. I mean, now I look towards Hoot. You know, I get my fanboy card out. I get an extra stamp in that one. Just look to see what he can do now in this mid game with this strong start. You already said at the start of the game in the draft, you know, if we see Pocky like a couple kills early on, we can see him be a menace in the jungle. And I'm assuming we might see that happen yet again.
Yeah, I mean, this is, you take a look right now, just a little bit of jungle pressure already where, hey, you know what? Take a little bit of Gamba from the other side. Absolutely, why not? Not much is going to be able to punish it at this point in the end combo. Meanwhile, good to go, and just going to drop it on the pocket coming in over the top. Hoot, though, just going to be backing out in turn. Things kind of hitting a point of stabilization here, though, Jason, between both sides. We had trade-outs back and forth. Both teams still had 3 Guardians, 42k to 42k. About as even gets as we start approaching the 10-minute mark.
You know, a lot of farm has been given over to Hoot. I mean, a lot of the souls that they have of keeping things equal is based off of him. Michaelis gets a nice little execute onto Saint. Listic gets a kill onto Saf as well in the left lane, and VP are starting to pick up steam here. I do want to say one thing, though, really quickly is I really hope they fix that verticality in some of these abilities because you should not be able to combo someone that high in the air when you can't do that when they're right in front of you. That was ridiculous, pulling Hoot out of the sky. But it hasn't stopped Hoot from being a menace, and it looks like he'll finally go down here.
Hoot 30 HP, and trying to evade a Calico in that situation pretty difficult, but that is one of the big swaps that VP has done in this game that I think has really helped them out, where, remember, it started out as a Shiv Mo lane,
yep.
And they realized, okay, this isn't working, and Listic has just basically made left lane his new home, and as I say that, maybe overstays their welcome a little bit there, but the swap up has been good for VP here so far, and has let them mostly turn the tide in a left lane that was originally very negative against them.
Poor Listic got parried under the Guardian too. So Saf was just able to suck him dry. The counter push should be coming through now. That Guardian's very low on HP, and it looks like he might just commit on towards it. But he doesn't have the minions there. Obikim trying to clear the wave out. So I've yet to see the first Guardian of the game go down as we hit the 10-minute mark. Very uncharacteristic to see all Guardians alive at this stage, though, as we can see in the minimap, not very healthy in that left lane.
All Guardians being up kind of makes it less likely that you're going to be as aggro with the urn at the moment. You're still very focused on going for Guardians. Now, still a little bit more opportunistic, I guess, on the grab coming in from Hoot. Test, a little punish for KLS, and This is gonna be interesting because normally you have the Guardian situation settled by the time the first turn, one team being fully ahead, one team being fully behind. But as you allocate for the urn here, you're potentially gonna be giving up first Guardian take.
I mean, so what I'm looking for is, like, if you want to activate that Haze, an early Guardian would be the perfect way to do it, because then you have the extra pressure of Haze running around the map. Combo on a Hoot once again. Not sure if they have the damage to finish him off, though, as it looks like he will be backing away here to the safety of Saf. But yeah, I was expecting Abrahams to try to look for that earlier Guardian to free up Tasso. Actually, he's going to be rotating over towards this right down this left-hand side, looking for a kill. The Sleep Dagger ready to go, and he gets the connection on the Listic.
Yeah, Listic super low here. Goes for the emergency parry. Rescue beam. Gonna bring Listic up to a more serviceable part, but he's still got the chase down happening. Pocket completely finishing off. And meanwhile, guys going, yeah, absolutely. Rip me up a little bit, Guardian. Get me low. In this case, because if Mo sticks around, Mo's just gonna get swapped. Guardians, though, finally starting to go down across the map. 3 down, 2 in favor of Abrahams, 1 for VP. And all this time here, Jason, no urn movement until the Guardians actually get dealt with. And now you see the situation where Abraham's like, okay, maybe now we'll worry about the urn.
Altogether, that's actually a big kill coming through. Over towards that right-hand lane. It forces Zergy to be the one to defend against us. They're going for the dive on top of them here. And a great flame dash to cut off the retreat out of Jam side, but he's been overextended. Listic comes in to confirm that kill. They get the Guardian. But honestly, Abrahams, they don't have the manpower here to defend or to push for this urn turn. Instead, they're going for a push on the left-hand side looking for a Walker.
Well, the interesting part here, yeah, Abrahams, they can put Walker pressure down while threatening urn just because of the fact that they've gotten 3 Guardians down. They have more map control overall, especially with Obakim getting caught out. So kind of an interesting spot that they put VP in, where VP, said so many times, it's a team that has been masters of macro relative to most teams in Deadlock, but Abrahams now, they've really put themselves in a great position, ahead on economy, ahead on Guardians, and making VP make some tough decisions on how to deal with this urn.
Well, there's the last one to come through, pulls Saf away. The Busting Combustion being used too, and he gets a turn in around the corner. Great play by Saint here to confirm the urn, but they need the fight off the back. This task with the slowing Hex looking to do some good damage onto D-Mob. Blade Dance coming through. The Bullet Dance. Why do I keep calling it Blade Dance? Gets the kill. And that slowing Hex, I honestly was such a pivotal part to allow, oh my god, the Sleep Dagger as well to escape here on the retreat. But it was such a pivotal part to how TAS actually was able to provide a lot of these kills, because the slowing Hex, I believe it stops Zergy's teleport. I believe it stops Burrow, if I'm not mistaken. It stops the dash out of Michaelis. So it really prevents like a lot of escape abilities that you would use once you see Sleep Dagger come out. And I think even last time we had 2 or 3 slowing Hexes of Abrahams when they ran this Haze.
I think the itemization for Haze has probably been a big part as to why you're seeing Haze shoot up the ranks in pick ban priority. Also, the fact you think about why Calico is good, part of it's box running, but also part is the ability to just chase people down and be relentless when you have a bit of an advantage. And Haze also does that really well at the moment. And take a look here, left-hand side. Things getting a little bit up close and personal. Abraham's rotating backward to left, trying to maintain pressure here on the Guardian. They may be giving up the Guardian, but they're still looking to punish the Mo, perhaps, at the same time. However, Mo getting backed up by Holiday and Chiv at the same time. And, maybe this is a good time here to pull in Jake. It's about 14 minutes in, maybe a slight lull. Jake, what have we been seeing here so far, rotation-wise?
I mean, still a very even game. I think it's going to come down to some of these objectives in the mid game. Once these urns start to be run is where I'm really going to be interested. Both teams have been kind of finding pickups on one another, but I think Zergy's been farming up really well. So has Overkim, despite some deaths in the laning phase. And so pretty much everybody is in this game. Lasso attempted here to be found. That's an opening pick there. That's the combo we were talking about, right? Like Lasso into combo, and you don't even have the telekinesis from Zergy is another big problem. Meanwhile, Michaelis getting picked off by Hoot in the other side lane. So both teams just throwing blows at each other. No one, I think, has a real decisive advantage just yet.
Must be fearless.
Jason, we look at it here, and you start considering how things are going to scale into the late game. I still think you give a little bit of an edge to VP on the scaling, but now we're firmly in the mid game. This is where, if you're picking Haze, you're really hoping that the Haze pick will give you the advantage in some of these fights and make it so by the time you get the late game, you're working with at least like a 20 or 30k bonus.
Stolen last stand. Get back to that in just a second to see if they actually capitalize off of this. Size then comes through, gets a catch on Obakim, gets blown up. So telekinesis is being used onto together as well as just looking to escape now. as the chase going to be coming through. Shark with the last stand trying to actually pick up this Abrams kill, and he should be able to get it around the corner. 30 HP. So they do get themselves 2 kills for 2 deaths themselves, because Task has come in, and Saf even gets the soul exchange off here. Shark, I don't know how you survive this. You're on 100 HP. Hoots here for backup. He's going to fall, and kills are still being traded here, ZP. 3 apiece for both of these teams. The Urn is currently down. Not going to be secured for either player.
Meanwhile, Lasso a little bit later. Hoot, though, able to shake it on off, kills Demov in turn. And also, you know, these fights as they get scrappy, this is where a Haze can kind of choose where to engage, get more pick-off kills at the very end. Saf, meanwhile, going to pick up the Urn. So Abraham's going to get Urn control off this fight, a little bit more on the trade-outs, and now get to set the terms of engagements for the Urn turn in here, Jason, where you take a look at, they have a really strong window where you're not going to have either last stand or return the shadow out if they just haul with this Urn. I don't know if they're going to be that quick, though, given the fact that they drop the Urn inside.
Yeah.
It's not something for us here. So, you know, take what I just said there and put it in the bin.
Oh, Tass knows this is happening. Him and Hoot are here actually looking for the fight. Okay, they're actually just going to back off instead and retreat away. I mean, the fact is, like, you have a pocket, and the only hero in the game who can die to Affliction is Shiv because of bloodletting. It's not a bad pick into the Shiv. Well, I guess the Shiv was a pick into pocket, to be fair. But I was expecting to see Tass. Like, I'm also curious, like, what has he been leveling in particular? Has he been going for the stealth, that smoke bomb, so you can kind of be that human ward? You can see him on the minimap on the right-hand side, just trying to scout for anyone. And they actually might look to push this Walker, because I don't think they're trying to commit for this actual Urn turn-in. They're trying to do exactly what they did prior on that left-hand lane.
Yeah, I mean, right now the Urn feels like it's more bait, but here's what you have to be careful of Abraham's. VP is really good at forcing fights when you're using Urn as bait. Like, they know what's going on the right-hand side, and again, they just go for the full engage. So VP, they said, we want to fight regardless of what's going on the right-hand side together. Take the air with the Seismic Slam. The KLS already picking off Saint. Not the start of the fight that Abrahams was looking for. Last stand being invested here by Shriek. Going up and over. Demov finishing off what Shriek is able to set up with the last stand. And again, it's kind of as I call here, Jason. VP is really good at these Urn standoff situations.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Abraham should have known that. Like, I don't know who got caught. We didn't see the very beginning of that fight, but like, you had to imagine that they're going to force the fight once they see that your pocket and your Haze are not here to actually defend that Urn turn-in. So if anything, Virtus.pro are going to get the Urn turn-in. They get themselves 4 kills, and they're going to get themselves a Walker traded out equally between the two teams. But a massive victory here for Virtus.pro, and they will be able to take a decent solo lead off the back of this. I feel like we saw that coming a mile away. I know we have the vision of the minimap the whole time, but I'm pretty sure Abraham should have known that was going to happen. Maybe it was a combo of Obikin that opened things up. Or maybe it was the lasso out of Demov.
Either way, I feel like teams play Urn Chicken with VP a lot, and VP always ends up ahead. Like, they're not afraid to just engage in those situations. And that was another case where VP just says, well, you have your strongest members over on the right-hand side going for Walker. We will literally just run at you and make it work.
Yeah, I mean, what damage do they have beyond that? Saf, it's Jam side. I wouldn't really rate together right now as having a lot of damage, as he's at 16,000 souls. So yeah, with Tass and Hoot not there, I mean, Hoot's been the one who's really fed 22,000. At least Jams has been able to catch up with 22k himself too. But they're set up for another fight. They're set up for another catch. And it's a 3-on-3, to be fair.
Could be really doable, and Abraham's actually, they don't like how it's setting up. I think they kind of sniff out the idea that if they stay there, it's not going to be an even 3-on-3. It's going to be VP getting a good rotation. So, I mean, credit to Abraham's where it doesn't work on their timeline. They decide we need to get out. 119 to 113, and, you know, that split. Good time here. You know, Jake, you saw the Urn standoff. You know, what were your thoughts as we saw the VP special come on in?
Yeah, you know, this is, I think that the draft coming to fruition, I think especially with Shariq starting to get active with the Wardenal, it's going to be a big problem for Abrahams in the team fights. They don't really, for me, have the proper DPS or control for the Wardenal in the comp. And I mean, you're relying on some crucial skill shots, like you're relying on Abrams getting the lockdown on Warden. You're relying on maybe Tass finding the sleep. But, you know, once Warden's on top of you, if those skills have been used, he's going to be free. And I just don't think Abrams can stand and deliver. And can they escape either when there's lassos, when there's combos, when there's telekinesis available to catch them? I think they need to somehow disengage that Warden ulti and then refight. But whether VP lets them do that is going to be up to them.
There's nothing they can do.
One thing I find interesting here, Jason, the way Tass has been playing the Haze, it has not been as active looking for ganks as much as has been using Hayes more aggressively in kind of a split push role here at times. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just, it feels like a difference from how we've seen Hayes get played when Hayes has been played recently, as more of just a mid-game, get me in every team fight sort of hero.
I think Virtus.pro knows how Hayes plays. Not TaS, but how Hayes plays. Like where she's going to be. Like where's the moment for Hayes to have an impact in the game? And they've not been getting caught in jungle. Zergy survived the gank on that right lane walker, even though they eventually did lose the walker. He bought time for them to go for the fight for the urn to turn it in and get a walker themselves. I feel like they've kind of like nullified the mid-game power of what Hayes is supposed to bring to your composition. So I think his window's kind of gone. Like obviously you can still get a catch here or there if you catch him out in the jungle, but he's not really been super effective.
Also, we talk about income allocation. Right now, they've kind of put everything into Pocket and Furnace, not even the Geist. Saf has kind of been very active in a lot of these team fights, but taking a look at things here. VP rotating back. In control of the urn here so far. And okay, Abraham's maybe got a little bit of one win in them. They're going for the aggressive mid-boss take. They have more clearance on the map, and it actually is going to be a question if VP's able to get here in time here, Jason.
Even the bullet dance being used to take it down as quick as possible. I don't think they're going to get here in time. I think maybe they look for the refight off of this because they can see what ultimates are already being used. And a clean take, a good decision made by Abrahams. They had the damage to do it. But what can they do? What can they do with the Rejuvenator is going to be the real question.
I love that call so much. It's so rare to see an aggressive mid-boss call work out bloodlessly. Usually it turns into a fight, but they just had the snap decision of, we don't think VP can get here in time. And they were correct. I mean, I can't overstate what a great call that was by Abrahams and how rare it is to see it actually pan out that way with everyone still alive on both sides.
It's also the advantage to having your lanes shoved so far on the enemy side of the map, so you can see them actually having to contest it.
Sleep on Listic. Listic having the burn, return the shadows super early, and they're okay with that. They're like, okay, we got the ult out, that's fine. We're not gonna overchase the Calico in enemy territory. Meanwhile, Saf under the gun, getting chased on down, but the rest of Abrahams is coming in here. This could be bait in a bad way for VP if they commit onto the Geist. And now they decide we want to get out of here. The rest of Abrahams really eager for the fight. Still has the Rejuvenator. TaS able to find Sharik, and Abrahams now taking the advantage. They force out the last stand. And in fact, it's the last stand actually coming in from Saint right now. Sharik never got a chance to drop it. So the stolen last stand comes on in. Now looking for walkers is Abrahams. And if you're VP, you don't really have great tools to stop it here now. Michaelis getting into the fray of things. Great parry! Actually could change the fight, but backs on out, doesn't go over and in, has to really be careful. Super low right now is the shift.
Yeah, he's got to be very careful, and the bloodletting's only going to take him so far. He goes back to base to heal. So as TaS, they did have the man advantage from this fight. The urn was picked up by Zergy and ran over to this mid lane because he realized he had to be there to defend against this. And it seems like Virtus.pro, they've been able to hold on, only losing Shark. They might lose the urn off this. I mean, if you look what ultimates have been consumed, Abrahams have so much left. It's only the Affliction that's currently down. And Virtus.pro, no combo, no telekinesis, no lasso. Yeah, they're gonna have a last stand, but if they commit too many players towards this urn turn, and you can see in the mini map, Abraham's gonna take their second walker and another flex slot.
Mo getting bullied off in the left-hand side. And right now, I mean, Pocket is kind of exposed on the right, where Walker's definitely gonna go in favor of Abrahams here. And okay, Pocket's able to actually run it all the way back. So the bait this time working out really well for Abrahams, able to bring the urn back, give clearance for the walker, and they're going for a second walker here, Jason. The macro play coming out from Abrahams, really excellent at the moment.
Oh wait, is that a stolen telekinesis? I'm not sure what that was actually being used onto Michaelis. The sleep dart came through to buy time for the rest of rotations to be here. I think a last stand actually being thrown out of Shark to go for the chase on a jam side, but he's going to escape. And Saint, I think, going to be dying from this one, but Hoot's still going to be here to defend. The urn has not been deposited. Virtus.pro are still keeping two players here. And honestly, there's only so much that Hoot can do. A great parry comes out of Listic to deny the urn drop, and Hoot's going to fall from this. Virtus.pro, even without Rejuvenator, they're going to get a good swing in souls.
Why didn't they just bring the urn back there? I don't understand why they did so well, like bring the urn back to Walker and being safe while buying time for walkers to be cleared out by TaS. I just don't understand why Abrahams felt like they had to bring the urn up there. Everything else was going really well for them, and on the whole, it's still not bad. I wonder if they could have done that and maintained Urn, but now, look at here as a new Urn has spawned. Jake, what do you think about that sequence of macro coming in from Abraham's?
Yeah, as much as these are some good trades, like on paper for VP, I think Abraham's, anytime you're trading even remotely close with the Rejuve respawns at this point in the game is going to be good value, right? It's allowing them to have 6 players on the map, and then this Urn tournament is going to be completely uncontested. VP just aren't spawned back up into the fight in time. So I think just, as long as you're trading kills with the Rejuves, getting those shortened respawns, it's going to be benefiting the macro advantage. However, VP, like getting that Urn tournament was still nice for them. It still allows them to keep this lead to a minimum. And as Rejuve expires, VP are going to have very much another bite at the apple. It's still quite an even game.
Jason, as I look at this, though, I do feel like opportunities are starting to become slimmer and slimmer right now for VP, especially when you take a look at the map control, where VP now down all their walkers. Abraham's is kind of setting the terms of engagement the last few fights. It's a bit of a troublesome situation that VP has now found themselves in.
I mean, I'm looking at Jam's side. I know Jake was talking about last game how much damage Jam's side was doing on the Infernos. He's at 36,000 souls. Like, he is head and shoulders above everyone on his team. The next closest is Hoot at 31,000. But in terms of his opposition, he's looking at like 10k ahead of most players. Only a 5k lead over Zergy. Like, he's going to be putting out a ridiculous amount of damage in this fight. I'm assuming he's gonna have Spiritual Overflow online soon, which is basically when we saw a big, not resurgence out of him, but we started to see him more involved with these fights and putting out more damage. So he does have Spiritual Overflow and Infuser picked up. I mean, he's gonna be in these team fights, and with the lead that he currently has, I think it kind of comes up to him if he can be as impactful in these fights as we've seen just in their last match, and he has every opportunity to do so.
I'll be honest, Jason, the entire time you were talking, I had anxiety about the potential caster curse because I just look at the mini-map and see D-Mob on the holiday just near Jam side. Jam side oftentimes is the pick-off of choice regardless of what he's on in these situations. So I was just expecting the lasso to come out and Jam side to immediately die while you were talking about his importance. Meanwhile, though, Shariq gang slept. The fall-through is going to be here. At the very least, I think they're trying to get the last stand out of Shariq, but Shariq doesn't bite. Has really good self-control here, and instead turns into a chase down. They're looking for Hayes. They're gonna be able to get on the Taz. Taz, I believe, got enough clearance to get away, but so some wardens in that situation there, Jason, might have just popped the last stand. And speaking of catches here, lasso in here on the Hoot. Spot they're gonna be there. Pocket, of course, still pretty slippery. Able to cloak out and over, so the lasso threat gone, at least for now.
Yeah, that's definitely not the ideal target. You want to lasso in, so you don't have a slowing hex or a silencer of some sort. And tasks, I mean, he's gonna go back on the hunt here in 5 seconds, looking for the information. I mean, you can see, like, he gets the sleeve dagger onto Shark, together rotated in to look for a kill, though there's still another Virtus.pro player actually past them that they had to worry about. But one thing that does worry me is Abraham's, they're depending on tasks to create these openings, to create these opportunities, and they might have it on the listic in the right hand side of the map, which with mid-boss spawning pretty soon, it could be the big moment for them to actually transition in towards this. But listic somehow escapes all of this.
Yeah, while they're looking for listic, if they had kept diving, VP would have had a great engage from the back. So the one thing Abraham's doing really well at the moment is just going for opportunities, but realizing you have an internal timer at this level of play where if you don't get the kill in about 5 to 10 seconds, other people are coming on in to punish you for the attempt. So they don't linger there, Jason, which is really, really smart, where, I think at times we would have seen teams like try and deep dive listic there where it probably wasn't the play.
Yeah, so Calico is just so mobile. I'm trying to see, like, I mean, obviously the next fight's going to be probably around the Rune spawning in, or maybe the Urn, which I think it's spawning on the left-hand side of the map, if I'm not mistaken. So no one's actually positioned except listic to pick it up. In the meantime, Abraham's, I still want to say off the back of Task, be looking for an opportunity to go for a catch. And Obi comes over at the actually teleported to the left-hand side. I think Hoot's currently buying. And now both teams have started to collapse on this left-hand side, looking for that Urn spawn to come through. And it's going to be a neutral turn-in. So it comes down to if you're willing to take the fight for picking it up, which honestly, Virtus.pro should be able to get scotch-free.
We'll see if VP's able to get the pickup. Abraham's, they look very keen to contest here, so it may not be free. You got Pocket coming on in, and the Urn chase down here underway. Abraham's fully committing over here. Fight taking place here, there, and everywhere. It's Abrahams right now. Looking for a key pickoff. You got Geist here on the rooftops making Demov incredibly low from the get-go. Lasso already used. Abrahams investing both audience participation and affliction at the start of the fight. And at the end of it, kind of a win for VP. VP's able to get out with the urn. They use few ult, sure, but so does Abrahams. And now, okay, Abrahams, they decide, Jason, they want to turn this into mid-boss.
Yeah, I mean, perfect time to do so. You can even see Saint actually using the Spectral System to go contest quickly over towards the urn. He's going to teleport back, most likely. And now he's going to be here for the Reju, who's going to fall to the ground. You can already see Obikim and Listic going to be in here. This is going to be tough to take.
They're looking for it. Saf is able to get the Reju for Abrahams, and now can VP punish? Saf already with 2. Last stand being used. Saf with another, just completely invincible here in the pit. Getting supported all the while. And VP throw themselves into a bit of a blunder. They still get 2 kills in turn. Demov and Mikhail S making the end part of the fight a little bit more palatable here for VP. More so than that, as Mikhail S super low and yet able to land few final kills there. So not the worst for VP. They lose 3, but they get 4 rejuves down in turn.
Those resets, man, for Mikhail S. So it's so funny because like Shiv, if I'm not mistaken, has one of the worst win rates in the game at the moment. But when it comes to competitive play, he still has a pretty damn decent win rate because you know how to play around your team much better. You can go in and out of fights. When you have Zergy on 35,000 souls and Listic doing damage at 33k, you can get those resets off with relative ease in the fights. And Virtus.pro, they also take away the urn while all this happens. So they get the kill advantage even though they lost their Rejuvenator, and they retreat the urn back to their own base to prevent any sort of turn-in.
Well, we got a moment here as Abraham sets up on the attack. Actually, I don't think we have a moment. I'll put a pin in that. We'll talk about some of the details of Shiv's build a little bit later. Abraham's wanting to make the most of the last little bit of rejuve here. You know, the fact that you get extra creep pressure, they get 1 shrine down, going for the 2nd shrine, while VP's still down 3. Are they going to get first stage patron? Looks like they will. They might lose some people on the backhand side, but they're full committing here for first stage patron. Gonna drop the affliction. Still damage in on it, but will VP at least be able to get a little bit of blood from it? Yeah, we get 1 here so far. Tasso punishes Listic in turn. Trade so far. Listic, or rather VP, still in on the chase. Mikhail S, killing blow coming on in. This is where Shiv can really be a terror, looking to add more to his plate. And Furnace chopped to pieces, and Mikhail S suddenly coming to life here the last 3 minutes of this game.
Man, this is why I hate and love Shiv. The fact that you can do things like this and get those resets, get yourself 3 kills in that fight. I mean, at least for Abrahams, they still have Toss with the Rejuvenator. So they're still going to have the wave shoving in towards the base. They didn't get the first stage patron, if I'm not mistaken. And at least did get the shrine. Oh, they did get it. Okay, so they committed to it. While Michaelis was killing their entire backline.
Yeah, that's why they dropped as much. Like, they could have gone out more cleanly, but decided they want first stage patron. Saf, meanwhile, again, combo, getting rescue beamed in turn. Saf able to drop the soul swap. Saf so incredibly tanky. It's part of why the mid fight went as well for Abrahams as it did. Looking to turn things back around. Demov very, very low at the moment, looking for any way out. As Abrahams recommitting. VP still more people overall up. Clone combo up and over, a little bit extra pressure onto Sharik. Abrahams, though, not really liking the tone of this fight, trying to disengage and looking like they're going to be able to do so. So while they're on the disengage here, you know, Jake, we got Shiv in sight here. What have you been noticing from the Shiv build this game?
Yeah, I mean, he's basically gone for pure tank with like both of the resistance items. With I believe it's got the like healing on skill cast, and so he's really just playing to tank a lot of the aggression and hold down W into this game, allowing space for people like Zergy and Sharik to really be the key damage dealers. But this fight has gotten very scrappy, and I think Hayes gets out as everybody TP. Seems like both teams want to reset, but Virtus.pro may have bitten off more than they can chew. Zergy is incredibly low, just is not even going to slip out though. Taz gets the cleanup.
Yeah, Abraham's looking for the full recontest. Taz, a little bit low. Gotta look for the disengage. Meanwhile, you got Pocketed Sinclair going a little bit deeper. Down 1 is VP, and you know, this is a little bit dangerous now. Foot's gonna fall, and if you're VP, you're down 2. Abraham's, I mean, look, they may not be 1 win, but you already got the stage 2 patron. You get 1 more kill, you might be thinking about going for the end, Jason.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do. They have Saf leading the charge, leading the front line. You can see Jamside looking for an opportunity to go in. He's going to look for the catch with the Hex as well. Saint's going to get locked down by the combo and finished off as Listic comes through with the kill. So at least stave off the push for now, but they're going straight for the Patron. Are they just ignoring these players? The Patron's still taking damage. It's down about 20%.
So. This is still very difficult for VP, but VP, they have to get back out there. They've hit the fountain a little bit. Now back up and over. Abraham's fully committing. Listic going down. The patron getting super low. Is the full commit for Abraham's going to work out? It does. They take down the patron. VP does not get a chance to recover, even being in the lead. The shot calls for Abraham's in this game, Jason, absolutely unreal from the first mid boss to the call at the end.
Damn. I mean, Abraham's put on a very good match here. If you think about last week, they lost the first map. They came back in the second, and then it was basically a best of one in the third. But we've not really seen them go into this series with the map advantage. And it was, honestly, it was very difficult to do so. I think a lot of that early game was about Hoot, man. He put on so much pressure in that game, stacking up so many kills. I think he finished off at about 12, but then Task finally came into his own later on. Jamside was still putting out some decent damage, and they had a decent response to Mikhail S. Like, if they kind of ignore him since he's built almost full tank, and you kill his back line, he's not going to have the damage himself to get those resets. So great use out of those rescue beams furthermore.
Yeah, and of course, bring Jake back in. Jake, to me, this is a very interesting game because normally when we talk about shot calls, usually we talk about VP making really good shot calls. But to me, I look at how Abraham's played this. This is the most intelligent I feel like I've ever seen Abraham's play, with the decisions they are making, the calls they went for. And again, you realize how rare it is to see a team that's technically ahead on the aggregate lose the game. We don't see that very often here in Deadlock. It's very rare.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the way that Abraham has played, like, especially the forcing the mid boss with nobody down, I mean, that's a very risky call. Conventionally, we almost never see teams do that. We see it fail quite often. But in this game, they realized they had the time and even the commitment of Saf with that bullet dance to, or rather from Taz with the bullet dance to kill it quickly enough where the VP just couldn't quite respond in time. Ends up generating a pretty big advantage from them in this game. On top of that, I think the laning phase went very well for Abraham's overall, especially Pocket got off to a super strong start. I mean, the rest of the team not as much, but Koot was really able to make his presence felt, especially with that affliction throughout the game was a really big problem for some of these tankier team fighters. And Sharik, they couldn't quite get the lockdowns they needed in the team fights. It felt like the steal on the Moze combo was also particularly powerful in a few engagements.
I think ZP, other than the hard engage we saw to Virtus.pro and Abraham's on that left-hand side for the turn-in, I think Abraham's played pretty damn flawlessly. Like, it was a pretty damn clean game, even though Virtus.pro kept it really close and contested throughout, the 35 odd minutes we were in this match. I can only really point out like one mistake Abraham's made.
Yeah, and it would be where they played Earn Chicken a little bit too long, and that's a game that usually VP wins. But other than that, I mean, Abraham's played really well. I think you saw the benefit of Hayes right now in this meta where, yeah, you don't have the harder engage of a Paradox or a Holiday, but Tass was still able to set up really nice opportunities with Sleep Dagger into follow through from people like Together or Saf, and still very much make it work. And you look at the damage breakdown right now here too. Man, oh man, not only was Hoot involved in a lot of fights, not only was Hoot stealing a lot of the jungle, but the raw damage output that Hoot got on the Pocket here was immense. And Jake, as I'm looking at this here, I do wonder where do you rate it right now, having a traditional engagement option like a Holiday or a Paradox versus picking up something like the Haze?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Haze paid dividends in this game. I do still think Dimov, acquitted himself well on the Holiday 16 assists, definitely came by those the hard way, was able to get a lot done and controlling in the team fights, right, beyond just the lasso. I do think, though, maybe somebody like Paradox, who's really hard committing on the catch, silencing with the wall, locking them down, like basically all in on just that one big initiation catch, that seems to have fallen by the wayside. I think the fact that Holiday just continues to participate well in the fights with the barrel knockups, with being able to bounce around on the jump pads and be able to do some pretty serious gun damage of her own. I think that has made her, a little bit consistent in staying in the meta because she isn't just about that catch. And same for somebody like the Paradox, where you're even less committed to the initial catch and even more so for like the amount of damage and utility you get in the team fights, whether you're setting up with those invis, skill usages, or using that ulti, of course, to clear objectives or come down as that final nail in the coffin in a team fight when the opponents are out of stuns.
Jason, you were doubting the Pocket coming on in. Are you more of a Pocket believer at first pick, or you still have some doubts?
I wonder if I'm still not a believer in a Pocket first pick, honestly. But I wonder, is it because they want to put Hoot on more of a carry role in the team? Like they did something similar last week with picking Calico first, give it over to Hoot. They picked Pocket first, give it over to Hoot once again. And he had a pretty damn good game on it. I think it's not going to be effective unless your team plays around it. Because one thing I'm noticing is like the breakdown of souls by source. And you can see Jamside and Hoot having a massive portion, the amount of souls that they got from those neutral camps. TAS, it's 8%. Together, 9%. Saf, 9%. And then Saint, 6%. Like they really gave, I feel like, a lot of this jungle farm over to these two players to allow them to be effective. Because I didn't really see Hoot necessarily taking enemy jungle that often. But he definitely had a very strong game. Like in the beginning, he was ahead by like 2K with the amount of kills he was getting in lane alone.
Well, as I take a look at this, I think the thing that would be remiss to talk about is just the graph of the back and forth over the course of the game. Since we had the stat system, this is the first time we've seen anything other than an incline one way. I mean, this went both ways where Abrahams got ahead after the laning phase. VP was able to find pickoffs, and the spike for VP, that's actually the earn fight. That's the earn chicken that went on where VP got a big edge. And then you see the mid-boss call. And after the mid-boss calls where Abrahams is able to turn the mid-boss call into getting a big edge on walkers. And that gave them the lead that they were able to convert into taking the game as a whole, even though VP shot ahead at the end. So you can kind of think back to the events of the game, and all of it is reflected very cleanly in the graph at the bottom, Jake.
Yeah, like the fact that the game keeps going back and forth, it really shows how evenly matched these teams are. I mean, like a couple of these fights, especially around the rejuves, go differently, and we're looking at an extremely different game. So this is looking like a very competitive series, one that could easily go all the way. Although Virtus.pro lost, they are, down, but definitely not out. Still looking very competitive and threatening. I think Abrahams need to keep playing on a high level if they want to lock this series down.
Agreed.
As we're getting into it, I mean, that was our first map, and once more, VP finds themselves down one map at the start of the series. So, any last thoughts here, Jason, before we go to a break and see if VP can pull this one back and defend the crown?
No, because the quicker we go to break, the quicker we come back from break, and the quicker we get into our next match. So I'm going to be silent because I hope for this next game to come quickly.
Well, you heard it there. Jason says, no more yap, just break and into game 2. I couldn't agree more. When we come back, it is going to be VP versus Abrahams. Abrahams threatening to take the throne here once more. We are back here at Deadlock Fight Night Europe, number 28, where Abrahams has taken the fight to Virtus.pro, looking to be our first new champion in over 4 weeks. ZP here with Jason and Jake. And Jake, I'll start things off with you. Abrahams looking smarter than I think we've ever seen them, with the exception of, maybe one earn fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think they played really well in that last game. However, it was super back and forth. So I don't think there's much of a mental advantage coming into this game too. I think even in the final moment of taking the Patron, it felt like there was still a chance for Virtus.pro to be able to make a comeback and to be able to stay in that game. I thought Nikilas was a pretty smart shiv build, going like pure tank there to survive through the damage from things like Hayes and Abrams and even like the copied Warden ults. So I thought the execution was really great from both sides, and I'm just excited to see such high level deadlock here in our money match.
Now we're gonna see Virtus.pro first pick Pocket. Oh man, and then it's gonna be like they got Pocket, they banned Calico, or they're banning Hayes. I don't know.
You guys are Pocket haters. It looked pretty good to me. I mean, I don't know.
I'm not hating Pocket this week. I'm neutral. I'm Switzerland right now. Like, I'm willing to have my mind open to where it's at. I think it's hard to deny the level of presence you're getting on the map from Pocket right now, on top of getting the team fight utility. So look, I am more in the believer category than not.
They act similar to Lash, where you play on the high ground and you use that as information, then you majestic leap in and you look for that affliction. With the Lash being banned away, we didn't get to see Saf play in it in this last game. I mean, I didn't hate it. I just don't necessarily think it's first pick worthy, but I mean, I'm open to being wrong. I'm not saying off any basis other than
they have been
its
taking
track
it
record.
On the first 2 picks for the second pick team though, right? It hasn't been going like first overall in either game. It's been the team with second pick that grabs it in their first pick. It's the team's
first pick. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think also, it's like not the end of the world. It's like of your 2, like, hey, they have a Calico. Maybe you really need the Pocket in terms of having that character that can go in, do a burst of damage, and actually disengage and get out. for that almost like a scouting role rather than it being about stunning and catching an individual hero. Just seeing where the enemy is on the map, allowing your team to make the decision. Do you want this fight? Do you want to attempt the pick off, or should we just fall off? Like, to make that decision in the game time, in the pressure of a important fight, I think getting that info off is really value. And it's a little bit, it's like not going to show on any kind of graph in terms of the stats that Calico or Pocket, for that matter, are able to deliver. Although Pocket also has kind of monster damage too, so it's
this is pretty interesting to me. I thought VP banned Kelvin from the first pick position last time around because they didn't want Kelvin to be picked up in the 1 and 2 slot. But in this case, VP is second pick, and they are still taking out the Kelvin. So that is kind of interesting to me, where even when they have the back-to-back picks, they don't want to value getting Kelvin. Either that or they fear a Kelvin first pick, which I don't really think is the case given the fact that Calico has been the perma first pick all day long. Now for VP, the moment of truth here, particularly for Jason, is it going to be Pocket first pick? And if it is Pocket first pick, what goes along with it? It's been kind of a subpar day for Warden, but we've seen that teams have valued frontline, and the most valued frontliner has not been Shiv this week. It's been Geist. So you get Pocket, and do they go Geist? Because if so, you know, the beginning of the draft here, Jason, is kind of hit a rhythm.
Yeah, Swap has looked really powerful in both of the last couple games, right? It's turned around these fights, allows guys to stabilize a lot in the face of some overwhelming damage. If you fail the kills, like, or the CC chain, and Geist is going to turn the fight on its head.
But if you're Abrahams, on your next ban,
Let's have fun.
do you ban away Holiday? Because you know Virtus.pro aren't going to play Paradox now because of Pocket being picked for Mikhail S. And then they have no initiator, and they maybe force D-Mob to go Bebop instead.
I think that'd be smart. I think with where you're at, particularly I will say if you do want to go for the mid-stage ban onto the Holiday, you probably should pick the Lash before the mid bans, which they may do because Lash got banned in the mid bans last time. So you get Shiv here. You could do another frontliner alongside the Shiv, or if you're Abrahams, you could grab the Lash now and prevent the ban play coming out from VP, because I think for Abrahams, if you don't pick up the Lash now, based on what we saw in the last draft, it's a pretty darn good likelihood that the Lash will be banned and you won't have the ability to give that to Saf. But
I like the Lash pick. I mean, Kelvin and Viscus are gone. Those are two of the stronger answers. They're going to prio the Haze. They just really feel like Taz, I mean, he was an impact player in that last game, setting up a lot of openings, a lot of pickoffs in the mid game, and putting a lot of that pressure onto VP of whether they even want to go alone ever, right, when Haze is off map.
It's tough, though, because in last week's matchup, when they did this, when Abrahams played Lash, Virtus.pro played Pocket, Michaelis was able to bully Saf on the high ground quite a bit and wasn't allowing Saf to play from the high ground position to look for these great death slams. So I'm a little bit worried that if Abrahams go for a Lash, the same thing's going to happen, and Saf won't be as effective as we saw him in a one-win match.
As I look at this, though, I do kind of like the Warden more when you have the Geist on your side. I feel like we saw a lot of team fights where Warden would go in and just get swapped. But now you have like the upside of Warden being able to go aggressive, and you don't have to worry about swap ruining your day. And frontline wise, I don't think you really dislike either the Shiv or the Calico matchup as Warden. Now, the ban coming in for Abrams is interesting. To me, this goes, VP just wants to limit the amount of frontline power that Abrahams is going to give, and they would rather deal with a weaker frontline and Lash than deal with a stronger frontline and no Lash, because coming here on the flip side after the mid-stage bans, given how they played earlier today, I do expect Abrahams to like go for the Lash.
Like, we see a Sinclair ban of Abrahams and we're all like, huh?
That's an interesting ban, because I would have thought, like, it's not a great pick for VP, but it is still a great pick for Abrahams. And so I'm kind of surprised that they banned it. Maybe they just thought VP would grab it right here. I mean, I guess there's like, you could copy the Haze ulti, and maybe I guess the Hex is probably pretty potent against the comp they have already to be able to like grab it Hex and counter initiate. I love the choice of Ivy, though. Having like a very consistent hard stun for Haze to get her out of the ulti is, I think, super important. And it's one that they didn't have anywhere else in their draft. And I'm not sure where else they were going to get it with Abrams and Viscus, you know, both already taken out.
I'm still a little bit mind blown at because they were banning Ivy before, which I thought was a good ban. Banning Sinclair is a little bit weird when
you're looking to summon a god, right?
You would think they would ban something else, but in this case, they do decide to go for the Lash. that part makes perfect sense. So VP, they kind of were architects of this year. They said, we fear you having a stronger front line over you going Lash. And Jason Abrahams goes, well, you know, it's funny you say that because we're still going to pick up the Lash, but, you know, you may be right.
I mean, they had to run Kelvin with Lash in the 1-win match to make it like extra effective, ignoring the fact that like Saf had a great 2-man ult on the Walker. The Kelvin was also a massive reason of why they beat 1-win, but they're not going to have the ability to pick it. Maybe they actually go last pick Dynamo to have the extra sustain and then also have the extra wombo to the combo of Death Slam into a singularity. It also sets up Hayes of having a relatively good job. You also do prioritize then Obikim, who's most likely playing Ivy, to decide, do I stone form the Dynamo or do I stone form the Bullet Dance? Because you're most likely not going to get both in this situation if they go Dynamo.
I don't hate the idea of a Dynamo here for Abrahams. I think it's actually pretty powerful, especially for being able to Black Hole the Warden when he tries to cast his ulti. You can cancel it. I mean, Holiday, you can have Lasso on to cancel it right from out of range. I think that should cancel Black Hole, I believe. I'm not 100% sure about that, but and then
I'm not sure either, actually. Do you just pull the Black Hole to your towards
yourself? I think Lasso is considered a stun on the target who is lassoed.
Yeah, because
you
you grab sevens out of the air all the time, which is
exactly.
Yeah,
so maybe that's puts a little bit of pressure on Dynamo, but I agree. I think the Wombo combo is very real here. It would be an interesting draft for Abrahams though, because I think Dynamo is pretty weak / useless on the lane, and I think that's kind of a big problem. You end up falling a little bit behind with the Dynamo most of the time and trying to make a comeback play, which could be just too scary for them to go with. The 7 is a really surprising choice to me here. I thought they had plenty of gun damage and carry, but they say they want more. I wonder if is this ever going to be like a stun maxing 7 or something, like a sort of a support build that it's been a long time since we've seen people play that, but it's possible. It just feels like such a weird game to have like one more gun carry, especially with the threats of, you know, Holiday to jump on top of you. Mirage can be a problem.
It's a lot of damage Abrahams have though. That's a lot of damage.
I just worry, is it too much though? Like this is very late game, very greedy into a VP draft that could play quite a fast tempo with Ivy and Mirage giving some global presence and a lot of lane pressure from the rest of the cast.
Also, picking 7 into the Holiday at times has not been great for the 7 player because, I mean, it kind of depends on how the Holiday is being played, but the Holidays today in EU have not been turbo aggressive the way that they would be if played by something like melee creeps. So they're more willing to be reactive. If you're more willing to be reactive with the Holiday, that means you can just kind of save it for Stormcloud and where you're at. But regardless, it's definitely unconventional. We haven't seen a whole lot of double carry.
I want to see a stun max
at the same time.
Stun max Echo Shard 7. I'm calling it. They're bringing out the OG support 7 build.
On the note of Lasso, by the way, I don't think there's a world where 7 doesn't build Unstoppable as like the first 6k item, considering what he's gonna have to deal with.
Stun maxing and going Echo Shard, you got to consider the possibility.
I mean,
it seems crazy to me to have
right?
Infernus and 7 right on the same draft. I don't see that, especially with Hayes being your ganker. I mean, you have a lot of farm consumption on this Abrahams team, and are they going to have the space to farm like that under pressure in the early game with this greedy of a draft?
That's the problem they're going to run into, is that they need to farm. They need to farm 7 Infernus, Hayes. I mean, Hayes not so much necessarily. Shiv, Calico. Like, there's 4 heroes you need to farm, and there's only realistically 2 lanes to do it in, unless they're going to send one of these players strictly in towards the jungle, which actually might be 7 to be fair. But that's a very good point. I think that also then to me says, Abrahams, if you're going to want to win, you have to do it early, because you're not going to be able to out farm Virtus.pro with having so many heroes that need it.
Here's the other thing I'll say when I look at this. The one thing I think Abrahams is going to have a really big edge on through maybe about the first 15 minutes. If you're Virtus.pro, do you want to take earn fights versus Abrahams as a general rule? I feel like you don't. Like, between having to dodge Death Slam, Stormcloud, even Bullet Dance, and like how you can set that up, how Calico can get really good dives in at the beginning. Even with Affliction and Last Stand, I don't love a lot of the ways that the earn fights are going to transpire here for VP if they haven't already picked someone off. So
I do think though for VP, Pocket and Ivy can both kind of like walk out under the Lash because they have the reliable dodges for his ultimate. So there is for me like a bit of playmaking potential for Virtus.pro to get active around the earn fights. I agree. Like, I think walking under when there's like 7 ulti or Lash on the skybox, like ready to counter you, is going to be really, really scary. And so if Abrahams gets the earn control and threatens the drop off, they've got great tools to secure that. But I think VP can also just kind of play their ways through it with Mirage putting global lane pressure on, forcing some of these heroes to leave the earn fight. And then, of course, he can join, and then Pocket and Ivy and Holiday can look to make their plays on, heroes that are trying to set up and trying to protect that area. I think there's a way through here for VP. They're less reliant, and there's no Kelvin in the game to secure those drop-offs.
Also, Jason, we talk about how much has changed in the last few weeks, where this is the first era of Deadlock where we've seen Mirage not be picked in the upper half of the draft at all times, period. Going all the way back to the beginning, when Mirage was first entered into the game. Always first ban, first pick, or at least picked in the first half. And in this case, Mirage picked at the very end. It's a changing of the times.
I think for Virtus.pro, it makes sense. But in general, like across EU and A, it is quite a big change up. I think the reason I say for Virtus.pro is that it makes sense because normally they want to leave Zergy just farming and not really team fighting. With a Mirage, you want him to be the one farming just so you can split push and then he can ult and Traveler in towards a fight. But yeah, it is kind of surprising. But then again, is it as surprising as seeing Paradox not being first pick ban or first pick banned, the same as Holiday? Like, we've had a massive switch around in just the last few months of like what the priority heroes are.
Yeah, also on top of that, I think it's worth noting high priority at the beginning of this patch and just quickly devalued to the point of not being picked nor banned is Wraith, where also when Wraith was picked today, Wraith is lost 100% of the time today. In the sample size of 2, mind you, but conventional wisdom changing pretty rapidly, week by week on the new patch. Jake, we're getting a little bit more insight here as to how the lanes are breaking down. Anything wild to you as you take a look at it?
I'm just super curious to see the 7 build, honestly. That's like my #1 question about this game. I genuinely think this is going to be a support 7. Like, I just don't see that you can play for carry potential. I think it's like early support maxing and then maybe eventually getting Lightning Scroll on the ulti to be able to be just like a really powerful team fight stun control with, I mean, you do need to stun that ultimate. So if a couple of these stuns go out, like especially Holiday, the 7 could become a real problem, being a space creator really for the rest of the squad.
Jason, I think there's some wisdom to Jake's theory here, if nothing else. Look at who's playing the 7. It's Saint, who you would expect to be playing support heroes for Abrahams in the first place. So, yeah, I'm kind of on board with this idea of support build 7.
I mean, it makes the most sense theoretically, based on obviously ignoring the fact that Saint's on it, but just because you have so many heroes that you farm, like someone has to bite the bullet. And oh my god, it's gonna be Tass off the get-go as Listic catches him trying to go towards the shop. I think he catches him while buying.
That was so sick from Listic. Listic cast the nade as he was flying over from the zip. He like read that play entirely that Taz was gonna go try to buy in that moment. Huge punish from Listic.
All right, so VP. First 2 kills of the game heading their way as they pick one up on the Saf. Abrahams, rougher beginning to game 2 than what they had here on game 1. And, the other thing too, you think about comp and where things are going to be at. Falling behind versus Mirage comp always doesn't feel great, Jason, if that ends up being the case here, just because of the ways that you can manipulate the macro game via Traveler.
Yeah, I mean, luckily for them, it's not in the mid lane, so they're not going to be too punished by it. At least, but I mean, the first 2 deaths isn't going to be that big of a change up, to be honest. It's just about see if you can get a follow-up kill when you get your ultimates online and they don't have it. I mean, Demov's at 2.3 and I mean, Tass at 1.8 and same as Saf. They're not realistically that far behind, though it could transition to another kill or 2. It depends on, I guess, how the lane plays out. But yeah, I mean, I'm still like taking a look at this left-hand lane, keeping an eye on, what Jake's been talking about here. As you can see the aggression once again out of Demov, trying to go for the initial damage and initial catch.
Take a look at the left lane here where, I mean, Mirage Pocket, I'm not sure who I'd favor on paper on the actual lane here. I think you can make arguments either way. I'd still probably favor the Mirage Pocket over the 7 Calico. But, man, I look at the middle. The middle lane feels like it's going to be a problem for Abrahams, both in how it started and you look at the pressure in lane. It is constantly pushed up to the Guardian right now. And also, you stop and think about it. If this leads to a lane where Tass ends up a bit behind, it's going to limit the ability to get to your power spike where Hayes is super good in the mid game if Hayes is still stuck basically doing lane chores and behind at the same time. So, I mean, middle lane really could put Abrahams behind the 8-ball here, Jason.
Yeah, they've got no wave clear. It's only really Flog to do that. And you don't necessarily want to be using it on towards the hero or the minions. You want to be using it on towards people. As you can see, Saf goes down once again. mean, Virtus.pro really proving that first loss might have been just a fluke here, as they've just been completely dominating this middle lane. And this is where you can look to see them take down the Guardian and start to rotate out. I believe it would be D-Mob, since you're going to leave listed there just to continue to farm up on the Geist. And we were talking about like a Mirage getting ahead, but imagine a Geist ahead, which is already hard to kill as is. And with listed playing there with a lead, it's going to be even more difficult to deal with.
Well, also, I do wonder right now how much the benefit of having choice of first or second pick is at the moment in the draft, where second pick has been valued all day long by the team with choice of side pick, and the fact that you can open pocket Geist also just seems to be kind of a big edge right now. Because if you see VP come back massively in this game, and then Abraham's, theoretically come back in the third game with the same draft, you kind of look at that, and a common denominator there is like, wow, the second pick actually really, really strong right now.
Another kill out of Listic in towards the mid lane. Stun going to come through onto KLS as they're trying to get the kill on towards him. And he actually shouldn't really be able to escape, should he? Looks like he will. Saint actually just took the launch pad away.
Yeah, KLS is going to be able to get out of there, and VP, decent lead starting to develop here between both ends. Hasn't developed as much onto the Guardians, though. Jamside able to punish Obikin. Wow. Take a look here at Listic. Super bloodthirsty this entire game. Still looking for Jamside. Still has the tether up and running, and Jamside is just barely going to be able to slit the pressure, get back to base. And KLS falling in turn. Abraham's starting to claw their way back in some of these trade-outs.
Yeah, Listic went for gank on the right lane, considering they lost a player over there. I think he gets one kill, and then they actually just do send Obikim over towards the mid lane now to assist D-Mov. It's a little bit of a switch up happening. But that right lane Guardian's already low. The mid lane's Guardian's already low. The left lane relatively untouched at the moment. So Binding Word is going to be outranged here. But Together trying to get aggressive. I mean, the thing is, Together, he can snowball games really well when he gets ahead on Shiv. But I don't, off the top of my head, remember games where he's just kind of even and Abrahams has a good result.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the challenges for Abrahams in this game is going to be finding a way to manipulate the game state enough so Together gets not just like a little bit ahead, but seriously far ahead. And a lot of that's going to fall on TAS into the mid game. I think that's part of why you pick the Haze here, is to try and give a really good, safe mid game state for Together to get ahead on the game. Is that going to happen quite the same way with the rest of the draft? Maybe not. We take a look here back into the mid lane, and VP really ramping up the pressure onto the mid Guardian. Saf just getting caught off to the side. D-Mob, 50 HP though, going to get punished perhaps in turn. Yep, goes for the parry, and I love to see some of the self-control. We're not seeing as many last-minute parries where people can just finish you off with bullets.
I don't think we need to see Saf rotate out of the lane, to be honest. I think they need to give him a different lane. It's just not working out for him at the moment. Constantly being punished in this middle lane, allowing Virtus.pro to get further ahead. Currently 3K in the lead at 7 minutes in. As the ground strike had come through, the infliction to be used to punish Saf. To force him to retreat, you can see Michaelis just almost playing with his food here. And Saf's gonna have to go back to base already.
And that was Saf taking your advice and swapping lanes. It has not been a great day for Lash right now. Saf having a much tougher game than the games earlier today when we've seen Saf on the Lash. So a bit problematic for Saf here. And also, you stop and think about conditions for Lash being an impact on the game. Lash can't get that far behind because Lash isn't really a character that could be an ult bot. He still has to be threatening on the damage on his ground strikes, or really you don't get much out of him. So, and this is a real problem for Abraham, especially because at the point in the game you can't really funnel a ton of farm over the Lash either. A lot of that's going to be reserved for Together and Jamside.
If I'm not mistaken, he actually had the highest damage on his team. Yeah, 28,000 in the match first one when he had the highest damage on his team at 28,000. He was about 2K ahead of Hoot, who was at 26,000. I mean, it was just kind of insane to be able to pull off on Lash, but at least the upside for Abraham's here is Hoot's having a decent game, able to get onto a 3 kill streak, currently at 8.5 thousand souls, leading the game at the moment. Ooh. As you see the Storm Cloud with the combustion being used, they get the kill onto Listic as Zerg is on 1 HP as well, just trying to hide around the corner with that last stand. And I think he's going to be finished off here. They lose the Guardian, but Abraham's get the kills they need to take a lead for themselves.
Kind of one of the highest value Storm Clouds we've seen in a while. Meanwhile, Lasso connecting, D-Mob looking for it. Death Slam though, in from Saf, desperate for a little bit of farm and follow through. And may not be finding much of either here off the Death Slam. So the very least, Death Slam does stop the threat of the lasso as it was coming on in, but Saf still in search of farm. Take a look at, though, Hoot nearly at 10k. This is where you kind of have to look at Hoot and look at the rotations coming on in, because you expect Calico to buy you some time for the rest of your team to kind of stabilize when you're this far ahead.
He's taking jungle. I must have correct myself. Actually, it was Abraham that took the guard on the right-hand lane. And Hoot was trying to farm up on this left-hand side enemy jungle. He's now going to look for the chase onto Mikhail S. So, not... Actually, no, he does get the kill onto him, actually. So, Hoot is really having a big game. And honestly, a game they're going to need if they want to be able to get themselves a 2-0 victory here. It's only 2k in the lead, but Hoot at 11,000 souls. I don't think really anyone can 1v1 him anymore in this point in the game. So you almost have to just gift him a lane to just free farm it and continue to apply the pressure, looking for a walker. As Saint going head to head up against Zergy here, and actually might be able to get the kill onto him. The backup's going to be here, and they do trade 1 for 1.
Well, yeah, and you still see the importance of timing parries at the right time, where, you know, Sharik basically, or rather Zergy kind of goes for the hope of the parry. Doesn't happen, ends up being a meaty melee and turn right on after, and what could have been a clean pickoff ends up being a trade. Up and over.
Hoot is tired of having 0 wins in his stream title, man. He is carrying this game on his back. The pocket in the last game, the Calico now, he had a very lukewarm performance in their match versus 1 win. But he is really being the saving grace. 12,000 souls now, picks up a double kill in the mid lane. Together is going to fall up against Demov here as the backup of Zergy will be there. But it comes down to this earned turn-in now as we have Saf with control.
It was closer than I expected, but this is potentially a power point here for Abrahams. As we kind of call down the draft, is that they're going to be able to go for earned turn-in here, back it up with Stormcloud and Death Slam. Ideally, they wait. Like, if you're Saf, you give Death Slam a moment, and okay, they actually said, we think we can force it in, and they make the proper call. They're able to go in there. The response is not swift enough from VP, and you know, you take a look at that. Oh my god, I can't believe he didn't get jailed. Meanwhile, Saints providing cover for the escape with the Storm Cloud, but honestly, that felt a little bit uncharacteristic. Usually VP will not give up an earn for free like that. They were in the area, they mistimed it, Jason.
Yeah, maybe that's what they expected, was a little bit more restraint out of Abrahams. Instead, they're like, you know what, we're just gonna call your bluff and we're gonna full send it in. Because also, while this was happening, they did have Hoot together pushing the middle lane, getting a Guardian down, getting all 3 initial tier 1 Guardians down for Virtus.pro. Abrahams now on a 5k lead off the back of the earn turn-in. I mean, Hoot's at 14,000. I'm getting a little bit worried for Virtus.pro right now. Like, he is starting to get so far ahead. You can see here some camps that they were able to take on the right hand side of VP's jungle. He's now taking away their center sacrifices. ZP, I think there's a good chance you might have a new winner here in DFN and EU.
That's a possibility, and good time to bring in Jake. Jake, Calico's getting a little bit out of hand. If you're VP, what are you thinking at the moment when you kind of look at the state of the game?
Yeah, this is a particularly scary hero to have a lead on because it's so hard to focus fire and punish, right? You have so much innate escape and survivability on your skills that when you're able to get a lead on the game, you can really be explosive. You can really push the limits because you're not so worried about getting turned around on off these plays. And that's why they're parking Calico here in this side lane, trying to protect that last Guardian, denying some of that map control, keeping one of those shops open on the map for the team, and really just allowing Calico to stay on the map more and more, especially with this fortitude. So she's just looking to get even bigger to snowball that advantage for more.
Look how fast he is. My god, Shark, you're dead. Hoot picks up another kill. He's on a 7 kill streak here. Task sets him up and he knocks it down. ZP, this is getting quite insane. 17,000 souls for him now.
VP is in real danger. Despite how the opening lanes were going, the damage, the leak that has been caused by Hoot getting ahead has just been too much to bear. Another one falling. Again, the combo between Hayes and the Calico. You can see the rescue beam coming out from on top, but VP is a little bit shaken at the moment. Now, if any team can make a comeback from the situation, would be VP. Take a look at Turkey, having the last stand, taking down together. That's a big old bag that just gets secured there. Look at all the souls on the Zergy. One of the last heroes you want to transfer farm over to, Jason.
Yeah, but he's still 5k behind Hoot, funny enough. But I may agree, you definitely don't want to feed over Zergy. He's going to be currently sitting at the top of the table for his team. Even Jamside trying to apply some pressure on this left-hand walk and does pull 3 VP players away towards it, getting it down to about half HP. And Hoot's still going back to farming. And we do have a check-in here on Saint, by the way, for Jake. Stormcloud maxed his stun, currently the second highest level at level 2.
I see Mirage.
I didn't actually take a look at his items there when we had it up because I was more focused about the abilities, but it doesn't seem like we're going to see that support. Yeah, 7.
it didn't go full on the support. I don't think there was a lightning scroll either. I may be wrong.
I mean,
but,
it's probably a ways off lightning scroll,
yeah.
right? It's such a late game item, but I do think it's one that he will eventually build into almost certainly. And I think it's really going to up the potency for the rest of the team, giving them that moment to help connect in and follow up with some big damage.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting too. I think we're a little bit, I'm not gonna say spoiled, but a little bit shifted on that, because when Melee creeps ran 7, they like ultra hard rushed it. But I think this approach is probably a little bit better from Saint, where you could get the support end a little bit later in the game, but play more standard, perhaps into the mid game, is where we're at. But
yeah, Arcane Surge. So sorry, just the Arcane Surge we've seen also take like a massive resurgence. Not even a massive resurgence. It's literally like the first coming of this item. I feel like we've never had it as popular as we do nowadays, given that extra range to his abilities. Like for the Storm Cloud or even the stun, depending on how you want to throw it down there, can be extremely deadly. Listic gonna be stunned up. Here's gonna be finished top 4. He can even teleport away. And Abraham's again getting another kill advantage. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a world we're in where they actually go for mid boss relatively soon, especially if they get an early pick like this.
yeah, I mean, I think it could be likely. Also, the problem is that no one can fight Hoot in open combat, where, by the way, Chad has gone full aliens guy conspiracy and saying that Abrahams and VP are just colluding to get Calico nerfed in all these games. I don't think that's actually the case, but when you have this level of performance, sometimes it does lead to nerfs. Meanwhile, though, we got Zergy under pressure, drops the last stand, and is the world's loneliest last stand, is what you have there, Jason, where you take a look, Abrahams looks at it and they're like, nah, we're good. They just leave.
I mean, they get it out of the way. Look how fast Hoot is, though, getting around the map. Just protecting Jamside right now, hovering around him. He's going to get the information that Listic's going to be here. He's got to be careful. He does not want to get caught up by a lasso.
I see, Holiday.
And he does get away to safety. So again, he's hovering. He's helping protect his teammates. Still trying to farm up at 19,000 souls. I mean, it's if anything, it's not like his lead's growing, right? Like he's still staying within like 4K ahead of his opponents. It's not like he's spiking up to 5, 6, 7,000. But the fight here for this urn actually could be a very pivotal point of this game. Oh my
I just don't
God.
think you fight it right now if you're VP. I don't think you go into this. I don't think you can fight this. You have a 7 in the air. You have the threat of the Death Slam. You have raid boss Calico. Unfortunately, you have to find a grittier way to get back into this game, and I think that right now means giving up urns, because yeah, I mean, Listic was kind of in the area, but if VP had full committed there, Jason, I think it would have been a full VP death into losing mid boss and losing their championship spot.
Yeah, so that was a funny sleep dagger into taking the draft over towards the left or to the right hand buff spawn. Yeah, this is getting very tough, because one big concern we had was like, how are you going to feed over farm to the right players? I feel like Hoot is getting most of his farm off of hero kills. So that's freed up the lanes for others to farm up. I mean, Jamside's still keeping up at 19,000. Even Saint's actually ahead of Together. And look at the minimap. What has Tass found? His information that D-Mob is over here and probably spots out Shark as well. And they actually might collapse onto this for a kill. It's a 2v2.
Oh, quickly turning into a 3 on the cat, perhaps. D-Mob sees that. And also, that's kind of the problem, is that even when you do see Ava running around, it's not really the easiest lasso to hit in that situation, even if you're in range, given the speed and hitbox that you're dealing with. But, there's a part of D-Mob that's saying there's like, do I go for it? And it's like, no, just not a good idea.
I want to see something really quickly if our lovely observers are listening. If you hold tab, I'm not sure if you can see it, but normally the bottom left-hand side, you can see the amount of boons picked up by a player. Like when you're in game and you hold tab, you can see how many boons you've been able to get. So we can see Geist here has 9 boons picked up. I'm more curious about Hoot. How many boons does he have picked up? Because he's been all over these center sacrifices.
Boons are just your level for that. It's not the...
Is it?
Yes.
Okay, it could be. Never mind.
Yeah,
for some reason, I
is
thought
just
it
your
was
level. It's like, what level are you at? So
I don't need to see that. Never mind. But he's level 13 though. That's something.
Well, now level 14. But yeah, either way,
I learned.
Hoot pretty far ahead at the moment, and yeah, I mean, I think for VP, this is where VP kind of has to rely on the fact that they've historically been a patient team. They've gone out of worse situations than this. Zergy right now, immediately going off to the walker, able to get out of the line of fire. And I think if you're VP, you go here. Abrahams has made mistakes in this situation before, and you kind of look to the sky and go, please, make them make another mistake here. because I don't think you get through this with just your own gameplay alone at this point.
Another Lasso not connecting. Previously the crack shouldn't really do much damage to Hoot. And again, I don't think it's really leveled at the moment for Demov. Got a long time to go for his next Lasso. We can see Saint off to the side was even looking for potential Storm Cloud. Yeah, this is tough. Like, I feel like you just don't want to be fighting if you're Virtus.pro, like team fighting, but you also don't feel safe in farming necessarily because a cat could just appear. Oh, a cat and a terror from your nightmares just appear out of nowhere.
On the same note, though, as I look at this, I think this has actually been kind of bad for Abrahams the last like 5 minutes. VP is getting back into this game by virtue of just not giving up kills. I think it's quiet, but we're seeing a kind of a masterclass by VP of just getting this game back into their point of view. Yeah,
the combat mechanics help quite a bit, especially when they're able to get their own jungle. Gives them a lot of extra souls. I mean, Abraham's like they really need to utilize, take away as many camps as they possibly can from their opponents. And to be fair, for the chat, I don't know why I knew Boon was levels, but for some reason I did think that also meant like buffs you're picking up in the game. That would have been a cool thing to have in the game.
There are ways of getting at that info, but it's a little you have to like hover into the stat graph to get it. It's not aesthetically pleasing on broadcast. You know, there's a world where maybe able to script it up, but right now it's more on the unknowable side. But BP able to trade out on the Saint, and okay, the Lightning Scroll comes on in, so Jake's original prophecy of, hey, they're going to go more of a stun control 7, very much coming into play, and Abraham's now converting their lead into some big 6K pickups. However, you know, again, I take a look at this. You know, Jake, if you're VP, aren't you a little bit happy with the last little bit of this game, the fact that you've been able to keep it relatively bloodless?
Yeah, they've certainly been slowing down some of the bleeding, but that Walker going down is already big, and the Walkers in general here for VP have lost a bit of health. That left one is below half. I think it probably is going to go down here in a moment. Seems like Abraham's want to put together that push. I'm also worried because I think we talked about how greedy this draft is from Abraham's. I think once they get to like the ultra late game, 7 is going to become a carry. Like he's already got his ulti max and is playing for that, you know, just that value from utility. But at some point, the 7 can start buying more and more as you get the refresher, get escalating. And this ulti is like a you know, almost a guaranteed team fight victory once you're really hitting those high net worth counts. So I think VP are actually under a bit of pressure in theory. I think Abrahams are actually very happy to go into the late game. In the end, it's basically 4 late game carries on this draft, and that's not counting the Calico, who is herself so far ahead that she's going to be a late game threat.
On the same note, though, the rotations work out that Abrahams ends up giving up the urn to VP because the tournament was back in VP territory. And I just think, as you look at this, Jason, Abrahams was very significantly far ahead. Hoot was a raid boss to the game. Hoot's raid boss status, while still ahead, has kind of been diminished a bit here, as VP just continues to avoid ganks. I mean, it's been such a quiet last 5 to 7 minutes, but I think it's not been quiet by accident. I think this has just been quiet, and VP is playing really safely, but they're playing safely in a way that I think they could team fight some of these fights a lot more effectively than they could, say, about 5 or 7 minutes ago.
I mean, I don't think Hoot is necessarily like falling, his lead is falling behind. I think he's still keeping relatively, like he's still at that 4 to 5K mark. It's not been growing, but he's been still keeping this lead going. Just hasn't transitioned to the kills that you're discussing at the moment. As you did see a potential push on this left-hand side. Jam side's behind them. This should be 2 kills if they just turn it around and go for it. But VP are in hot pursuit. Jam side is he gonna get away from this one? Looks like he will be safe, but who comes in from the back? Another miss lasso. But as you mentioned, it's very hard to hit an Ava, but still, keep that lasso on cooldown is really preventing VP from locking down any of these kills. Not to mention when you have Rescue being paired in with this one. And now Sash trying to get onto the high ground position. They want to fight towards this Walker. They want to look for a Death Slam.
You know, with lasso being on cooldown, I wonder if you're VP, how hard you look to contest this at the moment. Abrahams would love to get a full open air fight where they get max value out of Stormcloud, Death Slam, and go from there. And there's worse things for VP right now than giving up a Walker, which would be, you know, giving up a Walker and losing a full team fight. But to me, again, as I look at this has been probably one of the biggest rope-a-dopes we have seen in DFN history. To see VP go behind and just go full defensive for this long. I mean, we're nearly going on now of like 12 minutes of effectively no kills going through, which really does not happen.
And I think this is where Abraham still has a lot to learn as a team. If this was switched and Virtus.pro had a lead like this, or had the start that Hoot had, I don't think the game would be as slow as we're currently seeing right now. I think Virtus.pro would know, like, how are we going to actually attack, use this advantage to our, well, advantage, and push objectives, force fights, and force more kills and a bigger lead. And I think Abraham's is still maybe too new as a team. Considering they're up against a team who's been together for basically 8 months, if not longer than that, since we started DFN.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because I think Jake had a really good point when Jake talked about the pressure that Abrahams has really been putting on VP, but VP has kind of effortlessly been dealing with it, roaming around the map, getting farm, not getting picked, keeping threats up with DMOV on the holiday where needed, not getting caught by Tass off sleep dagger ganks where, you know, Tass has been running around and for the most part, the pressure has been sniffed out. Maybe in this case, it won't be. Looking here for the Mirage, looks for it and no. Mirage not going to get hit by the sleep dagger. That was
he wasn't even stealth.
Yeah, that was also going to be a tough sleep dagger to land, given that you're already on the vents. But now, perhaps the lull is over. A little bit of back and forth here near the urn. Is VP going to get the first urn pickup? Right now they're looking for it. Stormcloud going to come out here from Saint. Abrahams, they've been thirsty to fight for a long period of time. Now maybe it's going to be the case. Urn pickup coming in right now from Saf. So they use the Stormcloud as cover. They get control of the urn. Ivy, though, going to force the drop. VP still kind of in the area. More coming back in. They lose Obakim. And VP, this is a fight you want to engage on right now. Zergy going to go for the last stand. Gets pummeled before the last stand's able to come on out. And now Abraham's taking advantage of the fight together on the cleanup. And VP finally go for a fight, but does not work in their favor.
This was like a 4-on-5 or like 4-on-6, and Abraham still come out with the 3 kills, only losing 1. Like, look at this. Tass has been pushing with Jam side, getting a free walker on the left-hand side. They pick up the urn, and they're going to be able to retreat to actually turn it if they wanted to go for it right off the bat. Instead, they're going for a mid-boss here, and that's finally the cracking point in that dam that Virtus.pro were able to put up. Abraham's cracked it away. They chipped at it eventually. The water's going to leak forward, and they finally got that burst they needed with the 3 kills, urn pickup, and a rejuve.
Listic's in the area, but I don't think Listic is going to make an attempt to go for a steal here. That would be unlikely coming from a Geist.
By the way, guys, I just wanted to comment for a moment. Taz just picked up Curse. I think this is like a game-changing moment for Abrahams. It's going to be so much harder for VP to escape these ganks with Curse set up into sleep, and if there's any kind of follow-up on top of that, the team fights are about to get a lot more difficult for Virtus.pro, especially those backliners who Taz is going to be hunting down.
Yeah, and the important thing here for Abrahams in the last few fights, not only did they get a team fight win, they got the mid boss. VP had nearly brought the game back to even, and now with like 1 major team fight, suddenly VP is back in the scrounging for just crumbs slot. Not impossible to bring back, but again, just to remind everyone the stakes here, because it has been on the quiet side. If Abrahams is able to win this game, that's it. We got a new EU champion. The VP reign is over. The KLS getting caught here by Tass. Curse, of course, being used. And yeah, right now this is coming on in. Bullet dance up, over, down goes Geist. VP down a clean 3 with the Rejuvenator still up, and we may be on the way to the birth of a new champion here in EU.
Jeez, even Hoot has Phantom Strike here too to really close the gap even further when needed. I mean, Shark, yeah, you're gonna get the walker. Okay, you are gonna escape as well. Tass didn't actually get the close on you. Oh no, he got the catch on you on the zip line, but he's still just delaying the retreat from him. This mid lane walker's gonna fall. It should be base gardens off the back of this too, considering the time we still have for Virtus.pro to respawn back through. And Obakim, he's not long for this world. He falls, and Abrahams, I mean, ZP, I don't want to call it just yet, but man, I'm thinking that we're gonna have a new champion for sure. With the way Abrahams are playing, I think Hoot can finally change his stream title.
Yeah, I mean, you take a look at this. The options VP have to bring this back, I mean, they've just gone completely by the wayside. What was once a game where they were within 10K is just ballooned to being down nearly 40. Refresher being brought here by Saint. Using Refresher 7 in comp in a while, but the double Stormcloud now on the menu. Shrine's going down. Oh, dear Lord.
You gotta be
damage
careful.
being dealt on out there to Abraham. So you take a look. That is the biggest affliction of all time for McKayless. Walk out for Dimov on the fall through. Everyone for Abrahams just need to get out there. That was McKayless. The last gasp perhaps from VP, trying to keep this game even. The kills are going to roll on through off of what sets up from McKayle.
Well, it's still, at least at the moment, a 30k difference between the two teams. So Abrahams, yeah, you lose 3 players, but you got a lot of damage done with this Rejuvenator. You're also gonna have the urn spawning in 1 minute time, and now Virtus.pro, like, it's gonna be a tournament in their own territory. Do they set up in a position to try to secure it right away, even though you do have Rejuve minions pushing your base? Do you try to contest it? If Abrahams go for the turn-in, there's a lot of choices to be made in this next minute for Virtus.pro that will determine how this game plays out.
Well, okay, I think based on how it's spawned, it's going to be set up on the left. And yeah, I mean, Abrahams is going to be fully up. You probably cannot get control of the urn here, barring some other mistake. Also, it's worth noting here that the McKayless affliction was so enormous that first stage patron didn't even go down there. So it gets brought back within 30k. I mean, oh man, if they catch Saf here, that'd be massive. I don't think it's going to happen. And also, I think if you're VP, you have to play for jungle. I don't think you can go for urn control here. I really think it's a bad idea.
Look at Tassin Hood in the minimap. They're behind enemy lines. They're going to get a catch. He gets cursed up right away. No stone form, at least at the moment. He does die before he has a chance to use anything, and the rest of Abrahams are going for the push in as well.
This is going to be clean urn take from Abrahams here, or potentially more. I mean, if 2 down, you think about how the last game ended where they just decided to go for patron. It's not quite ending the game in this case because they still have to go for first stage. I
They got time to turn in and go for first stage, though, for sure.
Yeah. Well, also, I think if you're Abrahams, on some level, you're probably feeling the nerves a little bit at this point, where you've been working really hard to this moment for quite a long time now. You have VP down. You're already up 1. Like, this is a match point situation. I think Abrahams, they play this one a little bit more safely at this point. But even still, they drop the Storm Cloud, go in, grab the Patron, and now they just get the walkout with the urn and Patron in tow.
Man, this lead, 40k now. It's so imperative right now for Abrahams to deny away as much jungle as possible from VP. I'm surprised to see no one go left side to take out that jungle, because that's a lot of free farm for Virtus.pro to catch back up, because the comeback mechanics are now, I don't know if they're like maxed out at this point, but they are damn close to that extra 25% souls. And is there any big purchases for Abrahams coming through? And we can see Hoot at another 5k to spend, but he's got no slots. He's going to start to upgrade some items, maybe sell off some items as well. Jam set at 4k is Ricochet and Infuser and Spiritual Overflow.
I think the other problem you run into here too is that if you're Abrahams and you got double Storm Cloud, you could just push up and go for Patron. And
Wait,
use
does Saint have Refresher
as a backdrop. Yes, Saint has.
Oh, wow.
He's had for a while now, in fact. So yeah, I mean, they went all in on just Storm Cloud presence. Now they're looking for a pick off. They're able to get Dimov, and this could be the beginning of the end. One pick off, enough to get more here for Abrahams. On the verge of being a new champion here in EU.
Oh man, Saf gonna get caught up here a bit. Stoneform not gonna connect. Death Slam. It's gonna be used. I'm not sure how he's gonna catch it. I think it caught about 2 players, but is the follow-up gonna be there? And he doesn't need the follow-up. Saf does it himself. That's 3 more kills coming through. And Abrahams, they already have the stage 2 patron vulnerable. They can just push in for the win here. Or do they want to put the final nail in the coffin of Virtus.pro, take it on Shark? It's all on Listic and McKayless, and they're gonna continue to chase for these kills. Listic trying to take him down. They'll ignore McKayless for now, and they're just pushing the patron here. ZP, Abrahams are finally gonna do it.
Yeah, Abraham's well on the way. Virtus.pro falling bit by bit. It was a long run. The GGs have been called. The patron now under assault. McKayless, the last one, about to fall. VP, you had a good run, but Abrahams, you are the new EU champion here at Deadlock Fight Night. The streak is over.
Damn, and what a way to do it. This is this Hayes Calico combo. Abrahams was the first team to do it. I think it was 2 weeks ago. Or was it last week? I don't remember. They all kind of bled together after 28 weeks, man. That they started to do this whole roaming as a pair. Tass and Hoot holding hand in hand, looking for catches in the jungle. As Jake mentioned, once that curse came online, that kill potential went through the roof, and they were able to consistently give a man advantage to Abrahams every single time when it came to these fights because of the pick potential they were doing. ridiculous stuff here for Abrahams, and a well-deserved win, honestly.
Yeah, gotta bring Jake back in here. And Jake, I mean, this is an interesting game where it felt like, here's the progression of events. Abrahams got ahead early on, and VP had a really, in my mind, actually very good mid game of trying to bring the game back. Like, one of the best times we've ever seen of a team trying to get back in, and relatively speaking, they brought the gap very close, but then they just had one bad team fight. Suddenly they're down 30K, and it was beyond repair at that moment.
Yeah, Abraham's just showing real mastery of the game, with a major strategic diversity across the different matches that they played today, winning all three. That first game of the day, they looked amazing, playing around team fights, looking great around the objectives, and making a comeback win over one win. And then against Virtus.pro, they play some very different styles, playing very pickoff oriented, playing for that individualism. And the fact that they're able to showcase these very different styles here on the same day, I think bodes very well for their future in Deadlock Fight Night. They may have taken a long time to finally reach this position, but this was a convincing championship win.
So right now we're asking here if we need an interview from the other side. And I'm going to tell Parzival, yeah, we want Hoot. Okay, he actually, before I even said Hoot, they have offered up Hoot. So we're going to be getting Hoot here for an interview where, those are wondering, is like, we don't do interviews every week. It kind of depends on, the state of the show, who wins, etc. But this is one case where we will. But also, we got to talk about the MVP here of the match, which also matches up pretty well with who we're going to be interviewing. That's right. Player of the match presented by Intel. Jason, it is Hoot. And given the fact that you are very much in the Hoot fan club, despite you saying otherwise, tell us a little bit about why Hoot got player of the match here today.
I mean, Hoot was... he's not the only reason that they won these matches today, but he was the person to carry them forward. Thinking back to his pocket play in match 1 of this series, he got them so many kills in the beginning of the game that he was able to snowball himself so far ahead that Virtus.pro really had no answer for how he's playing out the pocket. Then you think forward into the Calico match he played. They were losing. Their mid line got absolutely destroyed by D-Mob. And yet, his Calico picking up kill after kill, was on a 7 kill streak here, is what kept them in the game, what gave them such a big lead. The amount of invades he was doing, taking away boxes, pair him with tasks later on in the game. They were this constant like human ward rotating around, giving themselves so much information that you have to give it to him. And not to like to toot my own horn or pat myself on the back, but I did say like a couple weeks ago when Abrahams wasn't looking too hot, saying give Hoot more of a carry role. Let him be that number 2 player in EU that he is at the moment in our leaderboards, in our global leaderboards, and let him try to pull off some carry potential. And I feel like the last 2, almost 3 weeks now, he's been really able to grow into that role and be an exceptional player that we always knew him to be.
Yeah, definitely. I think players that show a lot of flexibility, that can succeed on very different styles of heroes and in very different matchups are people we're always looking out for. I think Taz, it's got to be another one in this game with, the Haze is really just adding to the level of heroes that he's always been so good at. Like having top damage back in the day on Paradox in some of these games is like completely crazy to me. So seeing him on, the Haze makes sense. I think he's one of those players you would really trust to be an innovator in the space and to push new styles, new metas into the game.
Also, real quick, I want to say thank you, Metro, for the raid, where the funniest part about Metro raiding us is that you would think that would lead to more positive Metro commentary. But also, I've realized most of the people viewing Metro will also flame Metro. So it's like, we're actually going to get more Metro flaming in the chat. It's a little bit unreal how that works. But thank you so much, Metro, for the raid.
Look at the soul breakdown by Hoot here. 18% of his souls came from breakables. He had 46,000 souls. That's insane to have such a high number. Like, it's more than the neutral camps he was taking. That's how proactive he was being around the map. As Ava, constantly taking out every single box or pot he possibly could.
Yeah, I think this cat farm just opens up new opportunities for farm on the map that it's not like consuming farm that other people would use, because a lot of times those early games, no one would be willing to go so far afield to break boxes. So Ava just adds like a new, essentially free soul income. I think, was it first pick every single game so far? I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we see people banning this if they don't have first pick with how consistently getting farmed it has been.
Well, we can get some info straight from the tap. That's right, we haven't done an interview in a while, but we are going to do an interview here today. We got Hoot of the new champion team in EU, Abrahams, to give us a little bit of perspective of how this all went down. First off, Hoot, I want to say congratulations on your win here today. And Yeah, I mean, it was great watching you out there. First off, how did this come about?
You mean how we won? I mean,
Yes.
we kind of we decided to play for pickoffs mostly and play for team fights a lot as well. I really wanted to play Calico and Pocket especially. That's where we first picked both of them, and I can just farm throughout the game and catch people off guard with Calico and team fight as Pocket.
I'm just curious who, you guys have been grinding for a while here in DFN, been competing and putting up challenges, but this week something seemed to be different. You guys were really playing on another level. Do you think it's you guys just having a really the better read on the meta right now, or is it just like the many weeks of work paying off? Like why now? Why was this the week that you guys were able to win?
I think our macro has been getting better every DFN. Like you can really tell the difference between our first scrim together and this today, because we're all individually good players, like everyone on the team. So we just have to know how to play together. And now that we figured it out how to play together, me and Taz just running around killing people, we really like made space and I think it won us the game.
All right, Hoot, I got like 20 questions to ask you, but I'll pick my best 17 of them. So first question, one thing I've been saying about you guys as a team is like, I want to see you in more of a carry role within the team. Because I think you have a lot of depth as like a player. You have a pretty big hero pool. You can play quite a few different things. Has there been a shift in the way Abrahams approaches the roles on the team? Have they made you in more of that? Okay, we're gonna give Hoot what he wants to play and let him carry games.
Like not particularly like given me the role. It's just basically been me. Like I think I want to say that I started the Calico trend of she being very strong in EU, because I tried it in scrims and it worked really well, and I just became kind of the Calico of the team, and so I continued playing her and continued doing well, and we realized that she's a first pick contender.
Okay, question 2 out of 17. Are you happy to finally change your stream title now to the one-time winner of DFN?
I am extremely happy, and I will be streaming tomorrow and celebrating with playing Viper.
Oh, okay. A man after my own heart. Last question here. Are you going to finally upgrade that raccoon painting you have behind you to something else?
Okay, first of all, it's not a raccoon. It's a red. You can see over here. It's a red panda. And second, no, I'm not.
Okay.
No upgrade to a red panda, man. Hoot, I just want to give you a shout out for your Twitch stream. Where are you streaming? Where can people find you if they want to watch some of your games over those next couple of days? Whether it's Celebratory Viper or some more of your favorites.
It's only on Twitch right now. Twitch.tv/OotDL. That's where I'm gaming.
All right. Well, Hoot, thank you so much for coming in for the interview. Enjoy the win. It was hard fought. And you know what? EU got new king of the mountain here. So thanks so much, Hoot and Abrahams. And, Jason, Jake, it finally happened where you're kind of wondering here, Deadlock, it's like, had we hit equilibrium? And the answer was, we did for a time, but things are always changing. And, Jake, you always talk about that. It's real difficult to stay on top because everyone is planning for you specifically, and eventually someone's going to find the answer.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Abraham's showing the power of determination there. Like, who talked about this team leveling up over time, and I think although the first couple showings against VP, they got 2-0, they got kind of blown out of the water. We were wondering, okay, is this team gonna be a real threat? But they stayed confident in each other. They continued to build that trust and that coordination. And even this week, it was able to overwhelm Virtus.pro, who've been a many-time champion and one win, who have been the other probably most winningest team here historically in DFN. So for Abrahams, it's just great to see a new contender on the block and one that really adds to the depth that this EU region brings to bear. We've kind of been waiting for that third team to come out of the woodwork, and now maybe they're the number one.
Can I maybe like poke one slight hole in their win that I'm kind of concerned about? Is, remember we had Kelvin banned by Virtus.pro as their first ban in both games. Last week they took away Calico, and Abrahams got destroyed in game 3. I don't think a Kelvin would have the same level of impact that Hoots Calico had in that game to make it work as well as they did. I'm kind of thinking to myself, like, Virtus.pro, I feel like they didn't really necessarily try too hard when it came to the bans. If you take away his Calico and you first pick Pocket, what are they going to do?
I think they had probably had reason to be afraid of the Kelvin, but yeah, I tend to agree. I think if you run this back, or if this were a 3 out of 5 rather than a 2 out of 3, from here on out, VP would probably not be letting Hoot get the Calico ever again. But, you know, it's lessons for VP to kind of reflect on for the next week. I will say this from the production end at Fight Night across both our programs. This is probably the first week in something like 14 or 15 weeks that on either one of our programs we're not writing a check to Virtus.pro, because Virtus.pro got taken down in Deadlock and their rivals team is not participating this week. So the rare anti-check to VP week is all I gotta say here. But all that being said, that has been EU here at Deadlock Fight Night. But guess what? If you're new to the program, we still got so much more left to go. Coming up next, it's going to be our North American part of the broadcast. Hydra Nation taking on Valhalla to once more see if anyone can dethrone Melee Creeps, who's been top of the heap for quite a while. Stay tuned. We'll be covering all that and more in just a few minutes.
We're back here.